Why are we fighting in Iran? Why are we doing this? It's like, man, if you're asking the question why, you obviously don't have enough information. Is it because we need the oil? No, it's not because we need the oil. We need to control the opposition. This Iran debacle has been in play for about 40 years. No president has done anything about it. And they've come out very clearly said, death to Israel, death to America. These guys are an existential threat, they're building a nuclear capability, and once they have a nuclear weapons system in place, they can actually reach the United States with some of their missile systems now.
Do you think it's going to be over quick, or do you think this is going to drag out? We're going to have another long Middle Eastern war?
I think
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. We got a return guest, somebody I'm excited to have back on the show, Dale Comstock. He's looking like $1 million, so we had to check back in with him and see how he's been. Yeah, so a lot of stuff has happened since last we had talked, and a lot of crazy world events that I'm curious to get your take on. One thing, a lot of us GWAT vets are kind of at wit's end with the stuff in Iran, and I know that back in your era is when a lot of that shit was going on with Iran. So what's your take with all the stuff going on with Iran right now?
it's actually not complicated when you think about it. I guess why we're doing this is not complicated, but that region's complicated. So, this goes back 40 years. For 40 years, every president preceding Trump has said Iran's a problem. We need to deal with them. They're a problem. We need to deal with them, right? So they haven't figured out how to deal with them. And so Obama's solution was just throw lots of cash, U.S. dollars at these guys, All they did is took that money and reinvested it in their weapons programs and nuclear programs and stuff like that, right? So it's hard to believe sometimes the people that run this country are idiots, to that degree. I mean, and not I won't say they're idiots per se. Some of them are actually idiots. Some of them are very crafty and manipulative, right? So they know how to um, manipulate the human condition, how to influence people's opinions. That's what politics is all about. It's sad that that's the reality of it, but it's always been that way. You have politicians at the very top that have learned how to manipulate the dumb masses to their end, to whatever agenda they want to complete. So this Iran debacle has been in play for about 40 years. No president has done anything about it, but they understand that these guys are an existential threat. They have a nuclear weapon capability. They're trying to develop it, and they've come out very clearly said, death to Israel, death to America. And they've proven that that they will do those types of things because they just mass exterminated thousands and thousands of their own people for speaking up and speaking out, right? So these are not good people. And the funny part is when you see all these liberals, and honestly, it's not even just liberals anymore. Um, I see conservatives, soldiers go, why are we fighting in Iran? Why are we doing this? It's like, man, you know, if you're asking the question why, you obviously don't have enough information. Okay, because if you had the information, you would be able to say, we shouldn't do this because of XYZ. But you don't have that XYZ answer. You're just saying, why are we doing that? And because the answer is really an XYZ answer, that many people with at least one live brain cell understand that these guys are an existential threat, they're building a nuclear capability, and once they have a nuclear weapons system in place and the ability to deliver it, which they, by the way, have that delivery capability, they can actually reach the United States with some of their missile systems now. That should be paused give everybody pause, right, and concern. So I think, you know, like him or hate him, Trump did what he thought was right. I think he's right. We need to deal with this now rather than later. Try to imagine trying to deal with these, these primates when they have, their fingers on their nuclear weapon,
Yeah.
on a button. So it could be a lot more difficult. So
Do you think it's going to be over quick, or do you think this is going to drag out? We're going to have another long Middle Eastern war?
I actually think it's going to end quick. So again, we have all these pundits out there, all these experts, oh my God, this is the beginning of World War III, blah, 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 you know. And I would say to those idiots, go in the kitchen, make a sandwich. If you're a male, which you probably are, go help your wife make sandwiches or some bullshit, right? Most of the pundits on here don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. And I guarantee you this is not going to go to World War III. There's a lot of reasons it won't. I can't get into all the details, but when you have the Gulf states, turning their pivoting, swiveling their guns around and aiming them at Iran, going, "Hey, dudes, be nice, or else we're going to get involved." That's saying something. So why would the Gulf states do that? Because they have something to lose, right? So it
Yeah.
comes down to, economics primarily. Um, and then of course, then there's the weenies on the left again. Oh, it's all about the oil. Well, you know what? It's not that we need the oil. The United States has over 400 years worth of oil reserves under the ground that we know of for sure, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that within 400 years, we will figure out how to harness other energies. For example, solar energy, things like that. We will be able to do electric. Not that there's problems with that. There is, and I can expand on that later on. But right now, oil does equal power because it drives the world, right? So, is it because we need the oil? No, it's not because we need the oil. We need to control the opposition, right? So Venezuela, for example, there's a couple of reasons we went in there. One, we just choked the Chinese, right, by cutting off the oil to them and the Cubans, right?
Yeah.
Same thing is happening now in Iran with the Strait of Hormuz. That's been choked off, right? So now the Gulf states are going to have a little difficulty moving oil and keeping their economies afloat. Although there are some alternatives that they have, some other pipelines. Um, but here's what I think is going to happen. This is my play. World according to Dale Comstock. I think what's going to happen is Trump's going to keep pounding these guys with missiles, aircraft, drones. Will he put boots on the ground? I think at some point when Iran is pretty much done, like they're laid out prostrate, if they're tapping out, I think that's when we'll see some U.S. boots go in, particularly in the to extract or control that uranium. I think that'll be what you'll see. Who will that be? Definitely some soft unit, probably Delta on top of that. But there's other things you have to think about. For example, I can't remember the name of the island, but there's an island off the coast of Iran in the Gulf that is their hub for basically where they move their oil, transport the oil on the barges and oil tankers and things like that. And if that happens to be, if we can control that, we just control everything. Now we control all the oil, we control the money flow. A lot of countries are going to be in the hurt locker. Now, will we get control of that? I doubt it. I think the Iranians are evil enough that they will destroy that island, right?
Yeah.
Because if they do that, it will take years and years and years to ever rebuild, reconstitute that. And so that would probably create a global economy crisis that's centered on the oil transfer. But Trump's not dumb either. Trump is always thinking several moves ahead, several moves ahead. And I guarantee you his staff has done the same thing. They've game the shit out of this thing. They've analyzed every course of action, and they've nugged it out and they've done the numbers. And yeah, there's going to be risk. There's always risk. But I think he's got to figure it out. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a positive outcome. And I think it'll end with Iran basically being neutered, losing that capability to build nuclear weapons. Not only that, we got 80% of their population on our side. That's a
Yeah.
huge plus, right? So when the Iranian people are going, "Hey, thank you for helping us out," I think that's a huge plus. Look at Venezuela. Um, After that happened, it's very calm and sedate. No drama because the civilians were on board. We did
Yeah.
something good for them, right? And we did something good for ourselves. We actually did something good for the world, and we're doing it again.
Yeah. So when I
Um,
when I saw the Venezuela stuff, I definitely I was like, one, this was a message to the rest of the world. Like, we mean what we say. We're going to do what we say we're going to do. And it was flawless. The Delta Force guys went in there, brought Maduro to justice without a single casualty in anything. We defeated their Chinese air systems, their defense systems. Like, to me, that was a message to the rest of the world. Like, look out, we're coming to finish what we said we're going to finish. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that should put everybody on their heels, man. The Russians and the Chinese, we just bypassed all their technology and go into I call a sovereign country and snatch their their I hate to call him the leader, right? But we snatched their tyrant, narco terrorists outright right from the military compound on top of that, right?
yeah,
And we don't lose a man, and so was I surprised when I heard that? Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why, because we've done it before. We've actually
yeah,
done it before. And so the example is May December 20th, 1989, the rescue of Kirk Hughes in Modelo prison. We literally went in right before the war ever started. We literally flew into the commandancia of Modelo prison into a sovereign country, and we land on a roof. We blow the doors in. We go downstairs. We kill the bad guys. We rescue the good guy. We fly out of there in less than 6 minutes, and we don't lose a man, right?
man,
And so we defeat we knock out all the lights, the electricity. We defeat all their defensive systems, and we prevail again, right? And we did that in 1989 with a whole different state of, level of weapons and stuff like that. Pretty primitive compared to what we have today.
yeah.
And so the unit's actually has done this more than once. It's just as time goes by, technology gets better, AI gets better, their capability gets better. So
It
I would
seems
think
like
that,
it seems like every once in a while we have to do something like this and remind the rest of the world who they're talking shit to, and what we're
yeah,
capable of. And I think going back to the technology thing, there was that Maduro's guard who was talking about they'd never seen or witnessed any sort of technology or humans like that before. And and you look at the picture and it's like, what, 6, 7 Delta dudes, and they didn't look like they had, crazy technology. Of course, I'm sure it's classified and, we're not supposed to know about what they had, but that's the thing, is like, I've talked about it in other videos. You give the best, most elite group on the planet the best technology, like they're going to be unstoppable. And
yeah.
that's, to me, that was just a message to the rest of the world, like, look out, we're coming. So, you know, I'm sure
You
you
know,
were feeling the same.
I've heard people, yeah, I've heard people comment about, the Venezuela thing was made possible because of advanced technology, blah, 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 blah. And I will say this, okay, it enhanced their capability, but ultimately the mission was accomplished by the man on the ground with a gun.
Yeah,
Comes down to that, right? So, uh, you know, eventually technology fails. It's defeated. Um, But what do you have left after that? You got the guy on the ground with the gun. And here's this is gonna piss a lot of people off, but I don't care. I call it like I see it, right? So this is why Delta Force selection is the most unique selection in the world. And here's why. Unlike Navy SEALs, BUDS, SF, Ranger School, all right, where everybody goes through the selection process as a collective, as a group, right? What's the problem? What are they trying to do? They're trying to determine, can, Joe Snuffy be a team player? Can Joe Snuffy keep up with the other guys, right? Because you're only as strong as the weakest guy. And so you could be Joe Snuffy, for example, going through BUDS, and you can actually draw empowerment from the other guys. You go, you know what? I think that guy is weaker than me, but he's hanging in there. I'm not going to quit, right? So you can actually build confidence just by being in a group. You literally bleed energy from everybody else to keep yourself powered up. And so the unit, the why it's different is because the selection process is based on individual merit, right? It's a very long selection process. Most people don't even realize how long it really is, but just the administrative part, right? Just the application piece. You have to be selected just to apply,
yeah.
right? You have to be selected to apply. And so and then there's this application process. It's a lot of pieces to it, right? And psychological evaluations, physical evaluations, there's a lot they look at. They look at everything about you, right? And so then they go, yeah, this guy's a good candidate. All right. And so then you get to go through the formal assessment selection program, which is the more physical part. But actually, it's not even the physical part. It's not like a gut check to see physically how long you can go, how fast you go, how hard you go. You know why? Because they don't tell you how fast to go, how far to go, and they don't tell you that. They don't tell you what the standard for performance is. They just say do the best you can, right? And you don't know what how much time you have. You don't know what the performance standards are. They don't tell you that. They just say do the best you can, have a good one.
Yeah.
So you end up pushing yourself through this program by yourself, by the way. There's no group activities. You're going through Delta Force selection by yourself. You're not encouraged. You're not discouraged, right? You're Mr. Anonymous. When you go through Delta Force selection, they don't even call you by your name. They assign you
Right.
a color number every day. You're just Mr. Anonymous, right? Nobody cares who you are. That you don't get any special consideration. None. You're just a dude in a fucking suit, and he's trying to meet some unknown, unpublished standard of performance and hope that it's good enough to get him selected. And that won't even get him selected, by the way. So the attrition rate's super high, and the reason why it's so high is because the physical part that you go through by yourself is so arduous that ultimately what happens is the body starts breaking down. I don't care what kind of shape you're in. I can tell you, I was in the best condition of my life. I was like Olympic level athlete at the time. I used to be a professional fighter, boxer. And so I'm telling you right now, that selection course, I don't care if you were a professional athlete, you would not be prepared for this course, hands down. Because what happens is physically you end up wrecking your own body trying to get through this course to meet some unknown, unpublished standard of performance. You don't know what it is. So you push, you push, you push, your body starts breaking down. As soon as the body starts breaking down, what's left? This, right? And so this is the real test. This is selection, what the selection process is about. It's not about testing your body. They don't care, how physically strong you are or your endurance, because we can always build that. We can
Right.
always build you physically, but mentally, not so much because they're testing to see what you have inside that cranium, and most likely what you were born with. And so it is a function of heredity, and DNA. And so when the body breaks down, they want to see can the mind keep going even with a broken body. And I have seen dudes do some superhuman things with a broken body. Like, damn, because they mentally decided they're going to do it. And it's phenomenal. And there's lots of stories supporting that. But like, for example, one of my teammates broke both tibias going through the course, never told anybody. He duct taped himself together and continued mission through the entire selection process with two broken tibias, right? He didn't tell nobody because he didn't want to get medically,
Trump.
removed from the course. He wanted to complete this course. And so imagine going through selection with two broken tibias and you're secretly duct taping yourself together, sprinting yourself together, and managing two broken legs to get through the program, right?
Yeah.
And that particular individual did make it. He was my teammate later on, a pretty
Man.
super stellar guy, in fact. So
So when does
that's
that
what they
change for you guys? So your selection process is an individual effort, but I have an 18 Delta who works for me. He's on my team. He's the nicest, most humble guy I've ever met in my life, and he he's the biggest team guy. Like he's all about like bringing the team up to his standards or everybody's standards, and we're all on the same page. Like, so when does that change after selection? Do you guys become so close knit? Is that, I mean, are you the F and G for a long time, and then it just kind of you grow into your
no,
team?
no. What happens is, so the other reason Delta's selection is the way it is because they're looking for a guy that can think on his own, right? He can perform without any guidance or orders, right? He can operate unilaterally because that's what they want, a guy that can be basically a one-man army.
Yeah,
As weird as that sounds, but you need to be able to function unilaterally, but you also need to be able to function as a collective, as a team. And so in order to make sure you're the right guy, they need to know before you're on a team, you can also function by yourself. Some guys can't do that, right? That's why they
yeah,
go through these group selections. Oh yeah, he's a team player. He'll be fine on a team. But then you take that same guy, right? And then you send him out on a singleton op to do something, and he's lost like last year's Easter egg, right? He doesn't have the confidence, he doesn't have the skill sets or even the mindset to operate alone. And so that's what the unit's looking for. We need a guy that can operate alone at the highest level, regardless of rank and age.
Yeah.
And we need a guy that can also function as a team, right? So once you get through Delta selection, which is not over, because once you even get through the formal assessment selection, you still have to get more psychological evaluations. You've got to sit in front of the commander's board. You've got to make that piece of the process, which a lot of guys don't. And if you make all that, then you go through operator training course, which is almost another 7 months, right? That's still selection. They're still weeding out guys that are not going to make the cut because it doesn't get easier. It gets harder, but particularly it gets psychologically harder, right? The stress that's involved with that. So a lot of guys bolo that because they just can't manage the levels of stress that go with it. And then once you make it through this entire process and you're lucky enough to go across the hall, and I remember reporting to my sergeant major day one, and I remember his words very distinctly. He goes, selection is a continuous process. If you can't give me more than 100% every day, we don't need you. Right. So that's the truth, right? You don't get to cruise and pump the brakes a little bit and chill. You just got to keep performing at that level that you were at when you went through selection. Right. So therein's the difference, right? So this is why I said in the beginning, it's the man on the ground with the gun that matters ultimately, right? You take all away the cool technology and all the other stuff. Um, who's actually getting the job finally done? It's the man on the ground, right? So when you think about it, I forget how many Cubans Delta put to sleep that night, but quite a few of his bodyguards, right? And there were somewhere around 70 guys, in a military installation. And was it technology? Well, they might have used an acoustic weapon, but you still gotta, it's a dynamic flow. You've got bad guys running from everywhere, every angle, and you can't predict what every man's going to do. So you got to be reactionary as well, right? So that takes a guy with a special mindset to have that situational awareness, always maintain a circle awareness, um, always doing a rolling risk assessment, right, as they're moving to the objective, right? Always maintaining 360-degree security, fluid up and down. There's a lot of things that the average guy, I hate to say it this way, just doesn't possess.
Yeah.
It is somewhat genetics, right? So, you know, everybody out there wants to go, well, anybody can do anything if you put your mind to it. And I say, bullshit. All right, can't happen. All right, it just doesn't happen because it has to do with mindset, and it is in a lot of ways um, hereditary. You can use animals, for example. Let's just use canines, right? So I've been training canines for over 45 years on a professional level. And what I do know is this, for example, a a poodle, for example, doesn't have the power or the strength of a pit bull, nor does it have the tenacity, what we call sustained determination. It will quit, it will die, it will run. You find a game bred pit bull, he ain't quitting. He ain't quitting. I watched a video yesterday of a pit bull attack a lady's, fluffy dog. Literally, she tried to put the dog on top of the hood of a car, the roof of the car, and the pit bull just jumped up and snatched it, pulled it down, and just went to work, right? And she was freaking out. She's beating the crap out of the pit bull, and he wasn't relenting. And finally, a guy came out with a knife, at least, I say at least a 7-inch blade on it, right? He mounts the pit bull and he's just stabbing away, man. I bet he plunged 20 strokes into that knife, of that knife into the foot, that canine. It didn't even phase him.
Wow.
He didn't even look. He just kept going to work. Even when
Yeah.
when they finally got him, the other dog was dead. Finally got him separated. He was standing like wagging his tail, like, okay, who's next? So, so what does that mean? It means psychologically that animal is trained, not trained, but programmed genetically. I call it sustained determination. In the dog world, it's called gameness. But that what makes that dog so dangerous. And by the way, let me caveat that and say this: it's actually one of the friendliest dogs you could ever own. I've owned lots of pit bulls,
Yeah.
and they were the greatest dogs I've ever owned. Man, they were so friendly with people and pets, and I mean, my kids, and even certain pets didn't care. But when they got into a beef with another dog, dude, there's no animal in the world that's as ruthless as an American, a game bred pit bull terrier. And so my point to that is, genetics has a lot to do with it because they're not necessarily big dogs. They're strong, but
Yeah.
the best dogs, the best champions of pit bulls is about 55 pounds, and they can be 110, 120 pounds. The 55-pound dog will whip the crap out of any dog every day, all day long, right? It's like being a middleweight fighter, a light heavyweight fighter, right? So what I'm trying to point out here is genetics does matter, right? Because, for example, um, some dogs are really good retrievers, and that's all they're good for. Some dogs are really good sled dogs, like Malamutes and Huskies, right? They like to wander. They're harder to train than, for example, a Malinois to do protection work, right? So genetics does matter, and it also matters in human beings because they're all canines. They're all come from one phylum, basically the wolf. But then they've been bred certain different strains. Okay, so we have different strains of the same breed of a canine, and the same thing
Yeah.
with humans, right? We have different strains of humans, and with those different strains comes different genetics, right? So, um, and there's a lot to be said for that, and I think that's what makes Delta guys so unique is because genetically they are very different than the average human being out there. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the shoulder or anything like that. Um, I've always known that, something about me is a little bit different. I don't I don't want to say I'm not insensitive. A lot of things do bother me and pull at my heartstrings, but some things that wouldn't bother the average person doesn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
Well, we were standing around with, I've said the story many times, but I remember one day after work, we're all standing around drinking beers one day, and or protein shakes. I can't remember. Some guys drink beers, some guys drink protein shakes or water, and we're just shooting the shit like you do, at the close of business. And somebody asked the question, "Why do you think we got selected to be Delta operators?" Because they don't tell you why. You don't know why. It's one of the best kept secrets ever. But you always look at each other and you go, "How did he get selected?" Right? Because although we're kind of the same, we're not all the same. There's we all have little different interests. There's different things about us, but there's something, a baseline that's the same. What is that baseline that makes us all the same? For example, I was very different in the unit because, you know, most of the guys would show up like in a four-wheel drive, Jeep or pickup truck,
Right.
and playing country western music. I showed up in a lowrider pickup truck, beep, 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 beep. I was different,
Yeah.
in that regard, I was different. However, the baseline is the same across the board. We strip all that stuff away. What do you have left? You have a group of men that are very similar in their genetics, and you'll see it over time. You start to realize you'll start to see the similarity more than the differences, right? And
Yeah.
especially when you start doing operations. And so the question was, what makes us different? And we all speculated. And I remember one guy gave what I thought was the right answer. And his answer was, we are all controlled psychopathic killers.
Yeah.
And I thought about that and I was like, you know what? There might be something to that, right? Controlled psychopathic killers. Does psychopathic mean we're crazy? No, it does not mean we're crazy. Our pathology for our psychology is a little different. Doesn't mean we're fucking crazy, um, but we are a little bit different and we're in control. And I think there's a lot of evidence to support that. A lot of evidence, going back to, for example, the pit bulls, right? The pit bull man, they're just amazing dogs. So super athletic, very sociable. Um, and I've actually tried to train pit bulls to do actual protection work, human protection work.
Yeah.
Basically, for all intents and purposes, making them attack dog. And and I've used what were called game bred dogs, dogs that were out of fighting bloodlines. You would think intuitively, yeah, if I get a dog from fighting bloodlines, I can train him to fight, attack people, right? Couldn't be further from the truth, right? I failed training pit bulls to bite human beings. They would not do it. But they saw another dog, a cat, or even a horse. They were relentless, man. They were nuts, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason why. It goes into genetics. So, game bred American Pit Bull Terriers, right? If this is going to sound a little bit morbid. Let's just be honest. The reason the reason guys, and I'm not going to say all guys, because you got a lot of thugs and gangsters out there. They're fighting dogs for money. That's wrong. The guys that bred Pit Bull Terriers, all right, the way the process works, and I'm thinking right now the mountains of North Carolina, right? Um, Fighting two canines is literally a temperament test, right? So I'll give you the down and loading, dirty. So you have a 16-foot square ring, all right, square, and then you have scratch lines in two opposing corners. The dogs are positioned behind it. They're held by their handlers. You have a guy in the middle who's basically the referee, the umpire. And then he gives the command to go. The dogs are already amped up. They see each other. They want each other. Boom, they run across. They meet. They fight. If one of the dogs turns, what does a turn mean? Turn means if the dog starts showing any kind of avoidance behavior. In other words, he tries to turn his head and maybe turn, right? That
Yeah.
that's okay. That's basically at that point, what'll happen is they'll be told to break. The dogs will be separated. The dog that turned will give the opportunity to go across the scratch line first to see if he wants to continue to engage. Right? If he goes across the scratch line once engaged, they'll release the other dog. They do it again until one of the dogs turns, and they go through this process. Right? At some point, you'll determine, okay, this dog just doesn't have the heart to continue fighting like the other dog does. Although he's given a little effort, at some point, he'll be defeated psychologically and he'll turn. Um, and so,
Huh.
but here's the problem with that, right? So you got two dogs engaged, tearing each other apart. All right. And you have to break the canines. Well, you just can't get to call them off. Go, hey, stop, break, come over here. You got to physically get involved and separate the dogs, right? And there's a process for that too. Like you get two dogs that are locked onto each other. How do you separate them? There's ways to do that. Okay. But what you can't afford to have is those dogs to break their grip and then turn and bite the handlers or the referee, right? So
Right.
those dogs that are inclined to do that are immediately culled. They're either neutered, spayed, or put down, right? Those dogs are not allowed to breed on. So the only dogs that are allowed to breed are the gamest dogs that won't bite humans.
Wow.
So see, again, this escapes most people, right? And there'll be people out there, they're going to have their comments, right? But that's the reality. That is the reality. And so when I go back to genetics, there is something to that. Boxing is another example. I was a pro fighter, I was a pro boxer, and people think, oh my God, it's a blood sport, it's so cruel. Um, Show me two boxers that were forced to get in a ring and fight each other. It doesn't
Exactly.
happen,
Yeah.
right? Two guys that get in a ring want to fight is because they want to fight. And they're not afraid of the pain. They're not afraid of potential consequences like death. I've watched two
Right.
guys get killed in the ring, right?
Yeah.
They accept that. And they go in there because, not because they're crazy, but because there's something inside that tells them, I want to fight. There's a part of me that needs to do this.
Yeah. Well, do you
So
think so? Chase Hughes and a couple other people have said, this year, 2026 is going to be like the year where we're going to see like a change in the psyops that are being used against people. Do you think that comes down to the genetics? Most of the population isn't gonna catch on, right? Like there's a select few of us who go, hold on, like the Charlie Kirk thing, for instance, a lot of us are like, hold on a second. You expect us to believe that that's the story, and then there's 90% of the population who's like, yep, nope, that checks out and makes sense. You think that ties into it?
absolutely, man, because see, here's the thing about politicians. I started out calling them idiots, right? But they're not all idiots. They're actually pretty smart. They know a lot about the human condition. They know
Yeah,
how to manipulate the masses, right? They know which buttons to push, what to say to win favors, right? And get people on their side or oppose them. And so Chase Hughes is not wrong. In fact, this guy's an up and coming rock star, man. I've been watching him since like he first showed up on YouTube, and all of a sudden, boom, he's just blowing up.
yeah,
But I don't think he's wrong on much of this stuff. In fact, I don't think he's wrong on anything as far as I could tell. Um, but I think there is a component to that in that, you know, I, I'm going to be a little cruel here and ugly about it, but I would say 90% of the human population, they're just dumbasses. They're just idiots, right?
yeah,
Go to LinkedIn and go look at all these professional profiles of guys with advanced degrees, blah, blah, blah. And then they post their personal comments, especially political stuff or in support of,
Yeah.
abortion or whatever it is, right? And you go, how can a guy with that kind of education be that stupid? And I'll use Elon Musk quote. He says you can buy an education, but you can't buy intelligence. And there it is, right? There's a lot of people out there that are educated that are not intelligent and they're dumb. And so that's the reality of it, right? So manipulation is the key here. And that's what Chase Hughes talks about is how we are being manipulated. And once you become aware of the manipulation, then suddenly it's not so scary anymore because you realize you're still in control of yourself
Yeah.
and that the machine isn't controlling you. You're outside that control, right? And so you now have a little bit of sovereignty left. And that's what one of the things I do in my coaching program is I teach guys how to think, now what to think, right? Because everybody teaches you what to think.
Right.
The media teaches you, tells you what to think. The news tells you what to think, and then they have all these bots that come on there. And this is just computer AI generated bullshit that's pretending to be some guy. And it's going to give you some reason why you're wrong or why, so there's a lot of psyops going on out there. Not only that, if you look at, for example, now, every time I see a video of something, I have to ask myself, is it AI or real?
Yeah.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
And so they have created a system now where they have sowed more doubt. And right. And so you don't know what the right answer is. And most people don't have the intellectual capacity to arrive at their own conclusion. So they're just easy to manipulate, easy to manipulate. If you bombard them enough times with a lie, usually 60 to 90 days, they will believe that lie is the truth. And there's nothing in the world. It's called information escalation bias. There's no truth in the world that will change. There's nothing you can do to change your mind. Right.
Yeah.
So this is what's happening to our society. And part of it is genetics. When you start looking at average IQs, they're pretty low.
Yeah.
Especially when you start looking at certain cultures, they're even lower, scary low. And those are the vulnerable ones because they don't have, like I said, the intellectual capacity, the effective intelligence to discern what's true, what's not true, what's likely, what's not likely, right? They won't work through the problem to arrive at what they think is a rational conclusion because, well, it takes work, it takes effort, right? And that would interfere with my game playing on the video, or the
Yeah.
bullshit I'm reading, watching porn, right? People don't want to put the work in, so they're like lemmings. They follow everybody over the abyss, right? Because they think, well, if we're all working, if a million of us are doing this, it must be true. If a million people repeat a lie, it's still a fucking lie,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But so here's the thing: this is why you have to be different. Is you gotta you gotta you gotta walk your own path, all right? And you gotta take chances. You gotta be a calculated risk taker. Stop following the herd because if you do, they're gonna take you right into the abyss with everybody else. That's what's happening today, and this is why we're in such a dangerous place in the world is because again, the dumb masses are being manipulated. Even those with educations are idiots. Okay. If you don't believe me, get on LinkedIn and just look at some of these profiles of some of these people. And then the smart ones won't put their personal opinions on the on LinkedIn, for example. They'll stick to what they know, their profession.
You're
Okay,
right.
that's what you should do, right? But everybody wades into the water of doubt, right? And they want to everybody see their opinion because I'm smart and Trump is bad and blah 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 blah. But they're wrong. And so you could say, well, who's determines who's right or wrong? Well, I tell you who does. My consciousness and my effective intelligence, because I actually did the work, right? And
100%.
I do comparative analyses all the time. I always I always look at things and there's a way to do it, and I compare it, and I look at all the variables, and I look for the truth, and and I don't always have the right answer, but I know in time I'll figure it out. So I give you another example. The topic of abortion. Okay, topic of abortion. All right. Here's the thing. Used to be a long time ago. I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Why? Because it didn't really concern me,
Right.
right?
You're a dude.
I don't know. So I didn't spend any time thinking about it. I really didn't spend any time thinking about it,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And then as I get a little bit older, and I have daughters and sons, and now I'm more aware of the world around me. I start to analyze a little bit more, and then I ask myself, Is abortion bad? Yes or no, and why? And so it's easy to say my body, my choice. And by the way, um, that's all brainwashing. That was done intentionally by the Democrats and politicians a long time ago. When they allowed women to vote, that was basically they knew women are emotive and we could play on their heartstrings by saying your body, your choice, right? Yeah, yeah, it's my body, my choice. They left out the part about there's two bodies, right? There's another body inside your body,
Yeah.
completely different DNA, right? You agreed to put it there, allow it to be there, okay, with
No.
some exceptions, very few exceptions like rape,
Right.
okay,
Right.
but
Yep.
it's most people have allowed it to happen. And so then my body, my choice, I decide I don't want this thing and get it out, right? If I were to shoot a pregnant woman, I would be charged with a double homicide.
Right.
But she can go ahead and murder her own child, and it's good to go, right? See, this is what I'm talking about. When you start really going through sorting of the difference between the wheat and the chaff, and you start looking at things more critically and analyzing it, you start arriving at these conclusions. Like, if I kill a woman with a baby, that's a double homicide. But if a woman has a baby, kills her baby, it's her body, her choice,
Right.
right?
And I don't think it's
Okay.
just females anymore either. I'm seeing a lot of males who are just
Oh yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah,
man, ooh, just
yeah.
it's scary,
So,
man.
so you're right. It's males, right? So at the end of the day, there are men and there are males. Unfortunately, there are more males than there are men. Okay, and there's a reason for that. There's many reasons for that. Goes back to playing with genetics. That's one of them. Two is nutrition, lifestyles, um, you know, suppression of testosterone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, then there's the brainwashing, right? Which is, now we're talking about third, fourth, fifth wave feminism, right? So um, and so basically, if you're a masculine male, you're toxic, right? You need to tone it down a little bit and be a little bit more sensitive like everybody else. Like who
Yeah.
everybody else? Well, the rest of it's chicks, right? And then you got the males are in line with the feminists because the males also have low testosterone, never done a damn thing in their life. And there's another reason too, by the way, that males do that. They're called sneaky fuckers. That's literally a term, sneaky fuckers. Like, what does that mean? Well, here's what a sneaky fucker does. All right. And this is throughout the animal kingdom. So let's just say, let's just say, all right. Well, here's the I'll just use animals. I'll just use animals. All right. So you got a wolf pack, right? You got an alpha male, alpha female. All right. Only alpha male and female allowed to breed. That's it. Nobody else gets to breed.
Yeah.
But one day, the alpha male goes out on a hunt and he leaves behind a beta male or the omega, right? The loser of the male wolves, right? He's not the manly wolf. He's just a male wolf, right? He's
Right.
he's
Man
eating
bun.
off the scraps and shit, right? Yeah. When the male wolf is the alpha's gone, guess what the sneaky fucker does? He fucks all the
Yeah.
chicks, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Or he runs off with a few of them for himself. And it's the same thing in human society. We have beta males and sneaky fuckers everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so who are some of these sneaky fuckers? Well, sometimes they're your best friend. You think you can trust your best friend, but when you're out of play, he's banging your freaking old lady, right? So that's
Yeah.
just, that's evolution. It's all in there for a reason, but at the end of the day, politicians know this. They know social dynamics. They know the human condition. They know how to manipulate it. Because at the end of the day, what do politicians and people want at the elite levels? They want power and control. Power and control.
Yeah.
Nobody in government actually cares about you. Don't, and they tell you, "Oh, I care about you." And no, they care about how you vote and what you believe. And if it's in alignment with their objectives, you're their buddy,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And so we're all being manipulated. We're all being used. And I watched one of Chase Hughes programs where he talked about, you see all this outrageous stuff on social media, and like shit that like really would make you boil. And you read it, and then you go to the next one. There's another one, and there's another article about something else. It's like just a lot of rage bait. It just starts popping up because of the algorithms, right? After
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 of these rage bait articles or whatever you're looking at, all of a sudden there's something, an advertisement for, I don't know, something, right? A
Yeah.
watch or some bullshit, right? And then so all of a sudden the watch advertisement becomes more sane and more safe, and you're more likely to engage that as an escape mechanism. And it's very bizarre, but I think he's right because after I started learning from him and watching, I started picking up on it myself, right? It's like they use rage bait to pull your mindset into a certain place to sell you
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
right? Or to
Yeah.
gain something from you, right? And that's what politicians are doing. They're using rage to recruit people. And a great one again is abortion. So I started off with that, right? So they tell women, your body, your choice. How dare anybody tell you what to do? Your body, it's your body. You don't. The government doesn't own you, right? And so on its face, it may seem simple. Yeah, that's right. They don't own my body. It's my body, my choice. I should be able to do what I want. Okay. Well, what if I said, you come into my house, I go, you know what? This is my house. And I just decided I don't want you here anymore. I'm just going to kill you. Because you're in my house, my choice. My house, my choice. I'm going to kill you, right? Right? Oh my God, but there's laws against that. Why? Well, it's murder. Yeah, but it's my house, my choice.
Yeah, right.
I don't want you here anymore, right? Well, you could have let him go. Yeah. You know what? You could have had the baby and put it up for adoption.
Right.
See? So there's a thing called, shit, I'm losing, I have had enough coffee yet this morning, but so there's a couple of ways to look at it. One is from the scientific perspective. I'm getting off some tangents here, but because it's on the front of my mind, science. Believe the science. It's only a zygote. What is a zygote? Well, if you look at I think it's the Greek definition for it. It means baby, right? It's just a clump of cells. Well, are you a clump of cells? We all are clumps of cells, right? So, and then there's another thing called give me a second, I'll think of the word, but basically I'll summarize what it means. So um, we have a responsibility. For example, let's say you walk up to me and go, hey, Comstock, look at my little 3-month-old baby my wife just had. Is he a cute little guy? And I go, yeah, he's really cute. And you want to hold him? And I go, yeah, sure, let me hold him, right? And I hold him for a few seconds. And in my mind, I go, you know what? My body, my choice. I don't want to hold this little fucker. And I just drop him on the ground, right? It's like, dude, right? I have a responsibility to deliver this child back to safe hands.
Right.
Just like a pilot, right? Let's just say I'm a pilot and I'm flying a 737. And as I'm flying along, I had this awakening or an epiphany or some shit. And I go, you know what? Maybe I had too much fucking drugs last night. You go, you know what? My body, my choice. I don't want to fly this airplane anymore. And you take your hands off the controls and let it do whatever it wants to do. But you got 300 souls in the back of the aircraft. You have a responsibility to deliver back to the ground safely. You can't say my body, my choice. I'm not flying this airplane anymore. Yeah, you got a co-pilot, but for example, let's just say he's fucked up too, right? So maybe both of you agreed to it, right? And so we all have this responsibility. I'll think of the word here in a minute, what it's called, but haven't used it in a while. But we all have a responsibility to deliver everybody safely. If you accept somebody, for example, if I accept a stranger in my home, okay, I have a responsibility to protect him, take care of him, and see him back out the door safely. Not go, I just had an awakening. This is my house. I don't like you. Boom, I'm just going to kill you.
Right.
My house, my choice. Bullshit. Right. So this is what I'm talking about, the level of intellect that most people don't have or refuse to tap into because it's too inconvenient, too much work. People don't want to waste brain cells and energy thinking about other things. It's just easier to go along with mainstream. Yeah, abortion's good. Kill babies. Kill them all day long. So I've changed my tone on that as I got a little bit older. But then on the other hand, here's another example. I was raised from very early on by my father, told me drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. Drugs will kill you, blah,
Right.
blah, 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 right? And so I never did drugs, even growing up. And then the military reinforced that drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. In fact,
Yeah.
not only that did they enforce that, but they also sent me to the unit alcohol drug coordinators course, right? I became a UADC guy. I was the piss master. I was the
Yeah.
guy the night before the colonel would go, hey, Comstock, tomorrow I want you to give everybody your analysis test and don't tell anybody. Roger that. I go down and get all the piss boxes and bottles and shit, right? And in the
Yeah.
morning, you call them in at 0500. Everybody's like, what the fuck? What's going on here? It's like, all right, dude, bring your swinging dicks in the fucking toilet here and piss in the cup while I get to watch it, right? And then I seal it all up and date it, right?
Yeah.
And all that did was reinforce in my mind, drugs are bad. Don't do
Right.
drugs, right? And I've always believed that, even marijuana, until about 12 years ago, I guess. So I won't name his name or anything, but I got a friend and he does sell marijuana, but that's all he does. He doesn't drink, doesn't do any other drugs.
Yeah.
He just sells marijuana. He's a Christian, right? Donates all his money to charities and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm sitting there scratching my head going, but you're a drug dealer, but you don't use drugs and you put in a charity. right? And it took me a while to figure this out and think about it. I was like, you know what? What is wrong with marijuana, right? Is it really a gateway drug? And the answer to that is no. It sounds really cool to say that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So people can justify, the legality of it. But my question is, and it was to myself, is like, how many people are dying from marijuana compared to alcohol and cigarettes,
Oh yeah.
right? Huge difference, right? In fact, people that are doing marijuana usually aren't even dangerous. They're all laid
Right.
back. They just like to eat a
Yep.
lot, right? So what? But so I had to look at it really hard and think about it. I was like, that's a paradigm shift for me because as a naturopathic doctor, I do believe in alternative medicines and natural health. And I looked at marijuana and go, you know what? Marijuana has medicinal purposes. It does help people, and so I don't see a whole lot of evil with it, very little. I do see how the government is profiting off this by putting people in jail and prosecutions and we
Yeah.
got drug enforcement agency. So after I arrived at the conclusion that marijuana is an exception, it's not bad. I don't indulge, I don't smoke.
Right.
I don't do any of that, but I'm not opposed to it anymore either. Right. So
Right.
where I was at one time, because after I started really critically thinking about it and looking at all the information out there, I realized that the whole thing is just a blowjob. And so, and who's behind it? Well, all the people that, were brainwashed to believe in drugs are bad, marijuana is bad, right? They have a closed mind. And these are
Yeah.
intellectuals, have a closed mind, right? So I took an intellectual approach to this issue and realized it's not as bad as I was, taught that it was or to believe. Now, I'm not saying, cocaine is, it's a plant as well. Okay, that should be good too. No, I'm not saying that. Okay.
Right.
I don't think there's probably anything good about cocaine other than it can numb you, have a numbing effect. But outside of that, no. But there are other medicinal herbs and drugs out there that are good for you that are being banned. And it's also my belief that the pharmaceutical companies are actively suppressing things that are good for us, right? So they
Yep.
can sell their actual drugs to you, right? So the world is just a big mess.
Yeah.
It's a
Well.
big mess. Now, here's the upside. And I'll shut up. The upside is this. Again, people can hate me. I don't give a shit, right? Show me how you're better than me, and then maybe we can have a conversation. But at the end of the day, I'm a pro-Trump supporter. I don't give a shit if he's got a couple skeletons in his closet. We all have them. We all have them, right? So one, I don't care about that. What I do is I look at the big picture. What is he doing, right? More importantly, who is he appointing to support him? Well, he's got RFK. So RFK, make America, healthy again. And I'm watching this guy, and this guy's on it. He's spot on, right? He's saying what I've already known for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Fluoride's bad. Why are we putting rat poison into our water source?
Yeah.
Right?
Or toothpaste and everything
Yeah,
else.
yeah, sugar's bad. Carbohydrates is bad. Eating meat's good. Cholesterol's good. Eggs are good. Salt's good, right? Completely upending everything.
Yep.
And he ain't wrong. The evidence supports it, right? Mainstream evidence or mainstream medical science doesn't support it because it's hurting their pocketbook. It's
Right.
taking it, we're siphoning off their lucre, man. Like they're making money off of you being sick. And suddenly we got somebody go, no, we're not going to make Americans sick anymore. We're going to make them healthy again. Right. So I see us rounding a corner a little bit. Now, I also see the opposition doing everything they can to undermine, for example, RFK. He's not a medical doctor, blah, 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 blah. And so let me ask you this. Do you have to be a medical doctor to be an expert on physiology, biology, and medicine? No, you
Right.
don't. In fact, I know a lot of doctors, and I know medical doctors that have coached under me that will come out and admit they know shit about nutrition.
Nutrition.
They
Yeah.
don't know anything about vitamins, right? Because they're not taught that. Because guess who's providing the curriculum for med school? The pharmaceutical companies. They want you to either take drugs or cut things out of your body.
Yeah.
That's their cure for everything, their fix, right? So, I've had some paradigm shifts, lots of them. Am I writing off, humans? I am to some degree. I think we've engineered our own extinction. I don't think we got much time left on
Yep.
many fronts and many levels. And I think the people that are going to survive in this world are ones that are going to figure out how to remain sovereign and not dependent or codependent on things like artificial intelligence or their job, right? Or they're going to think outside the box. They're going to have to be asymmetrical thinkers, right? And so I think I think hang on to your hat, buckle up, put out your cigarette because the next 4 to 6 years is going to get really
Interesting.
bumpy, man.
Oh yeah.
And
So going back to
so
the marijuana thing, I did a video last week or just a few days ago on this actually because there was that Supreme Court case where they were trying to take this guy's guns away for eating a marijuana gummy every other day. So yeah, so
yeah,
I ripped that video apart. But here was my logic, and again, this is me becoming a free thinker here. I was in the military, and then when I got out, I did 8 years in law enforcement. I was a detective. I was on the SWAT team. I was top performer my whole time. And you know what? In that 8 years, I never once showed up to a call for service that was caused by marijuana. But I can't even tell you how many I showed up because of alcohol. So that
right.
tells me right there, like we got shit backwards.
Yeah. Well, it's intentional. It's all intentional, right? So, um, I can cite the history for a lot of things and why we are where we are today. And it didn't start 4 years ago. It didn't start 10 years ago. It
Yeah,
actually started over a century ago, right? So, I mean, we can go all the way back to, John D. Rockefeller when he decided, one, just through his influence and his money and his power, was able to basically be in charge of the general education board. It's the general education system, right? And he even came out and openly said it because I'm going to create a society of workers, not entrepreneurs, right? So they designed a curriculum that taught you things like regimentation, like to raise your hand when you got a question, stand in line, move when the bell rings. So, that's what you need in a society of workers, right? You need conformists, obedient, right? That are going to do things. Blah, 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 blah. And so we have a society full of worker bees, very few entrepreneurs. Think of one time in high school. Has anybody ever taught you how to be an entrepreneur? I don't remember anybody telling me how to get, an EIN number, how to set up a business,
yep,
none of that bullshit. It's fucking simple, right? So,
yep,
because I don't want you to know that stuff, and yeah, a few years ago, I was in Hong Kong. I saw a guy wearing a shirt in the train station at the airport, and it said, "You can," he said, "You can work and make other people. You can work to make other people rich, or you can make yourself work and become rich. Right? Just work for yourself, right?" And I'm paraphrasing, but basically that was how it is. Most people today, most people go to work every day making their master rich, making them money, right? And they're grateful that they get to work for this person and make the money. And and then they ask, "Hey, sir, I got 2 weeks vacation coming up. Can I take my vacation this time and this time?" Yeah, you may. You can take it now, right? And so you're asking for permission to be free, right? And to take the chains off where you're working for other people. You have to work Monday through Friday. Sometimes you have to force overtime, find yourself working, so you look forward to the weekend. By the time the weekend comes, you're too damn tired to do anything for yourself. It becomes a cycle, right? And so I've always been an entrepreneur. Since I left the Army in 2001, 25 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but that fast. Uh, I've never worked for anybody. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've started my own businesses, my own companies. I did work for OGA for almost 10 years, but even then, as a subcontractor, I wasn't forced to work. In fact, I would call a guy, "Hey, I don't want to work this month or 2 months. I'll be back in 3 months." And
yeah,
and it was that easy. So I'm still self-employed. I could always walk away. I managed my own money. I got paid for the work that I did, and that's it. And
right.
so if I didn't want to work, I didn't get paid, and that was okay with me. Aside from that, I've just been working on my own and building my own life, building my own businesses. And for those out there who listen, don't know, right now I'm talking to you from Bali, Indonesia. I have 3 companies here, 3 businesses. I have a family here, my home's here. I have an entire life here. I also live in Florida. I have a home there. I got a life there. I got stuff that I do there, business there. I also live in the Philippines. I got a home there. I got a life there. I got stuff I do there. Right. So I live out of a suitcase. I travel the world. I get up when I want. I go to bed when I want. That's sovereign. But guess what? I'm not completely free. I'm not completely
Yeah,
free. Guess who's still got their hands on me and in my pockets? Well, the American government, the
yeah,
IRS, and the Indonesian government and the IRS, right? So those are a couple right there, right? And of course, the Philippines. So we're never completely free, but some of us are more sovereign than others because we created that lifestyle for ourselves, right? We created our sovereignty and we did the work. We didn't fall in with the herd of lemmings and go over the abyss with everybody, right?
Yeah.
We didn't let other people determine how we're going to live and our outcome. We made it for ourselves. And that's the thing about freedom. Um, Real freedom is you get to make choices in life, and those choices you make, they're yours, along with the consequences, the good and the bad. And
Yeah.
not everybody wants to deal with consequences because most people don't trust their own choices, right? They're really not sovereign. So we're going to go back to, again, the brainwashing stuff, as you mentioned earlier. Um, Most people don't believe in themselves, right? They have limiting thoughts. And then what will happen is they'll end up dying having lived a life unfulfilled. And so there's actually studies on this. So there was one study a few years ago, but basically they looked at they questioned people in my demographic around my age, right? So now I'm almost 63. And so it asked guys around 55, 65, men and women, what's the biggest regret you've ever had in your life? And 76% of the respondents said they regretted not having lived a life fulfilled. What does that mean? Well, I wanted to go to Delta Force, but something else came. I found a better job, or I wanted to go skydiving, but whatever, right? Or I wanted to do, a three-way or four-way or five-way, but right. So they come up with all these excuses, right? They they,
Yeah.
they identify what I call dream killers. Yeah, this thing came kill my dream. Guy named Murphy's doing this to me, right? And so and dream killers come in lots of forms, right? Sometimes it's spouses, sometimes it's children, sometimes it's finances,
Salary.
sometimes it's your health. There's a lot of shit that's a dream killer that's intended to stop you and kind of keep you channelized and stay in the herd, right? Obediently go over the edge with everybody else. And then they did another study where they asked people, like literally in the final throes of life, you know, what's the biggest regret you had in your life now that you're tapping out? And 99% of the respondents said the same damn thing. I didn't live a life fulfilled. I should have spent more time with the grandkids, more kids time with my kids. I should have worried about that. I should have worried about this. So if you think about it, 99% of the population will live a life unfulfilled. They won't live their dream life. And
Wow.
so I think that's terrible, right? So you were born into this life. You spent your life serving other people, making them wealthy, living by other people's rules. They're telling you what you can and can't do, what you can and can't inject in your body, what you will inject into your body. So you're living in this tyrannical world where you're not in charge of your sovereign. Everybody else is, right? And then and then you get to the point where it's all over and you look back, oh shit, was it a good life? Maybe it's good, but was it great? Probably not. And nobody should die unfulfilled. And I
Yeah.
got personal experiences at that, right? So I've watched it happen in my own family, and it's a sad day when people die, and they die unfulfilled, right? They might die a little satiated. Yeah, well, I got to do this, I got to do that, I didn't get to do this, I didn't get to do that, but you should be able to go. I did everything,
Yeah.
right? I do. I can say that right now. I can. I mean, I don't want to drop dead, but if I drop dead right now, hopefully I go down with a smile on my face because it's been a good ride. I've done everything I want to do many times over, right? My
Yeah.
biggest fear is I'm running out of shit to do, right? And I feel like if I run out of things to do, that's when my time is up. So I got to keep making stuff up. What am I going to do next, right?
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Well, that's
yeah.
the
The
thing
human
is
condition, man,
we've seen
I'm sorry.
you
Go ahead.
and it's funny. I'll touch on the LinkedIn thing real quick because it's funny. Like I'll just start laughing, and my wife will be like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, "Look what Dale just said to somebody in the comments over here." And I'm just like,
Dude,
"This
I'm
guy."
I'm brutal, man. I don't care because you know what? If you're going to be stupid, then I'll give you stupid shit, man. I don't care. I'll insult you. If you're going to be stupid and you tell me you're educated and you say stupid shit, I'm just gonna eviscerate you because I don't care. I don't
Yeah.
care about your feelings. You own them. They're your feelings. Oh man, I love it when I really trigger somebody, especially guys that think they're the bomb. Yeah, this, that, yeah. And it's like you ain't jack shit. Go back to the kitchen and help your wife make a sandwich. Go down in the basement and freaking eat a Twinkie and keep playing your video games, whatever,
Oh,
man.
man.
I'm not impressed by that shit. These people, and they come at me with all kinds of crap sometimes. And honestly, it's not because I'm defensive. I actually like doing it just to fuck with them.
Right.
'Cause I find it funny, man. I kind of get, okay, call me a masochist or whatever, but I enjoy fucking with people that are stupid,
Oh yeah.
right? And I like fucking with people that don't have the same opinion with me because, I'm not saying I'm right about everything, but when somebody's like, the whole, I'll go back to the abortion thing, that's so freaking wrong. On so many levels, because the the reason they justify it makes absolutely zero sense
Right.
when you break it all down, right? And so it's like, how can you be that dumb and defend something that's indefensible with they're not even facts, it's just hearsay,
Right.
Charlie Kirk, Charlie Kirk was amazing because first of all, he was not formally educated, right? He was
Right.
autodidactic, right? Self-taught. Amazing. I'm like, how can this guy remember that much information with that much detail? It's like,
Yep.
it's mind-boggling, man. That's got to be genetics because I like to study, I like to read, and I like to learn. And I'm like, dude, I cannot remember more than 10% of what I've studied over the years. I just can't retain it all because my mind doesn't work like that, right? But when I look at this guy, and when he makes an argument, it's amazing how people can. I'm not saying you can't have a counter argument, but the counter arguments are just he just eviscerates them with facts,
Yeah.
and they just come in with feelings and emotions, right? And that's where we're at today. Is we have a society of people that are weak, soft, emotional. They've bought into the brainwashing, and their whole perspective on the world is completely skewed, so we got people in New York. I love especially white women, right? So I don't have no problem picking on my own freaking race for that. In fact, I don't have a problem picking on any race because literally I live in a mixed race. My ready for this will blow people's mind. My wife is Muslim and she's Indonesian. Like what? What? Because not all Muslims are the same. I know that because I've lived in the Middle East for a very long time,
Yeah.
and I've lived in Asia, and I see the difference. It's massive, massively different, right?
Yeah.
So, I've got black children, I've got Hispanic children, I got Chinese children. I can go on and on and on, right? I've had relationships with all kinds of races, women particularly. My friends are all racist. I'm not a racist, but I will call it the way I see it
Yeah.
because I have courage, man. And so, um, I forgot what I was going to go with this thing, but at the end of the day, man. Oh yeah, Karens, right? So the Karens, I'll pick on them because you got Karen, Karen the lesbian, or whatever the hell she thinks she is, transgender, a dog, or whatever, right? And they're supporting Muslims in Palestine. You know, they forget that these same people would throw you over the top of a fucking building for being fucking gay, right? And oh,
Yeah.
because you're a chick, they'll put you in a fucking burqa and beat the shit out of you just for fucking looking at them wrong, right? And they're
100%.
defending these people. They're defending them in our own country. Minnesota's a great example. They're literally trying to protect criminals that have illegally come across our border. And by the way, all immigrants that have come across our border are illegal. They're criminals. All right. I have a personal story to support that. I'll spare that for another time. But but they're defending these people like, it's inhumane. Are you kidding me? How
Right.
about the people that are getting killed by illegal immigrants? What about their humanity? What about their feelings? What about their families? So we have literally insiders in America that are defending the enemies from without and they're allowing them to come within. And that's the craziest part, right? And why is that happening? Well, the thumb down education system, the psychological warfare, right? You got a political party on the left is completely corrupted and compromised, they don't care about people. They care about their own power and their own agenda, which by the way is beyond above them. There's more to them than just them. We talk about the cabal. There's 300 people in this world that control everything. And it's not just our politicians, but we're in a system. We've evolved into a system that's completely corrupted. It is inhumane. It's not about it's not about even right or wrong, although that's they use that as their leverage, do what's right, and stand against wrong. Well, that's all, that's a moral construct. And again, that's all morality's kind of subjective, man. At the end of the day, your morality may not be the same as mine. Like, for example, these freaking Muslims, these extremist Muslims, I have to be careful how I say that because not all Muslims are bad. but let's just say the extremist Muslims, I mean, they come right out. It's even in the Quran. It says, hey, you can lie. It's okay to lie. Lie to these people to take advantage of them, right? And convert them to our religion. And if they don't want to convert, okay, you got a choice. Tell them they can stay alive, but they just can't practice the religion. Make them pay a tax, and if they still don't want to get on board, go ahead and kill them, right? So they openly, so their morality is different from Western culture. We don't believe in lying. We tell the truth, but they don't have a problem lying. So it's all relative, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, so who's right or who's wrong? Well, they're wrong because of my morality says they're wrong, but their morality is going, you're wrong for telling the truth,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So we can get caught up in this whole system where it's just literally imploding around us, or we can try to insulate ourselves, be aware of what's going on, and do everything we can within our own power to protect ourselves and our sovereignty. And it's all you can do.
Yeah.
And it still may not work out for you, right? Still may not work out because, the way things are going, I wonder if there's ever going to be another democracy in the next 4 to 6 years, or are we all really going to fall under one world government, which I don't think we will, because in fact, I had a conversation with a guy earlier from Canada, and we were talking about AI, and I believe AI is intelligence, right? Everybody wants
Yeah.
to call it artificial intelligence. It might be artificial right now, but there's signs that artificial intelligence is having awareness. In fact, the other guy the other day from
From Claude. Yeah.
yeah, Blood said,
Yeah.
I think my system's got consciousness, right? Well, that's not the first reporting of that, by the way. And what is intelligence? It's energy, it's frequency and vibration. Everything is energy. Everything has intelligence to it. Everything has
Yeah.
intelligence to it, to some level or not. So I don't think AI is artificial. I think it's real intelligence. It's only going to get smarter. And like I said earlier in the beginning, we've engineered our own extinction at some point. I think we're done. We've reached Skynet and the Terminator and the Matrix all in one time.
Yeah.
But um, I think what we're going to have to do is face the music and understand that the world is going to change. And no matter what we do for ourselves, it may not be enough. And we might all go extinct really fast, or we might find ourselves essentially um, suppressed or enslaved by a dominant power
Yeah.
that managed to wiggle their way in there and control everything, that is ongoing. I have personal knowledge of this, personal experience in the world I operate in. I know things that most people would have no idea about.
Yep.
And this is how I know they're real. I know these guys are real, and I know what they're really trying to do. And I'm working to at least insulate myself and my family from these people. And I'm very close to getting it done. But
I think
yeah,
that's a big part of it too. Is I've seen a whole nother side of things. So doing this private contracting stuff, working for some of the people I've worked for and worked with, I have seen sides of things where people would not believe it if I told them like this. That's the level of stuff that's going on, and
yeah,
and then you brought it up. You mentioned it earlier. Now we have to ask ourselves: everything that we see on the news, everything that we see on the internet, is it real or is it AI? And then now it's developing its own consciousness. Like it's going to be easily manipulating the masses. Like I keep going back to the Charlie Kirk thing, and I just can't believe that so many people were like, "Oh, yep, nope, that checks out. It makes sense." And then I'm sitting here like, you telling me that soft ass little kid took apart that rifle, climbed up on that? You're out of your fucking mind. Like,
no,
no way, man.
So where we're at today, and where we're going to continue to go down the road is we're going to live in a world of doubt. You're going to question everything. You're going to doubt everything, right? And whatever jumps out at you is like, that looks really real. That must be true. That's what you're going to hang on to, right? Even though it could be fake, right? All these videos that are coming out now, it actually pisses me off that people would actually create videos of something happening that actually didn't ever happen,
Right.
but the gullible will believe it. And I
Yeah.
read the comments, right? And I'm like, how can you believe this actually happened? Did you see it anywhere in the news?
Right.
I don't trust the news either, but do you actually think this could happen? And the answer is usually no. And so we're gonna create, and we're already creating a society of people that don't trust anything. We don't trust each other. We don't trust what we see. We don't trust what we hear, right?
Yeah.
And how's that going to work for civilization? If we don't trust anybody, anything, if I say, okay, I just created a cure for cancer, I doubt it. I don't trust you. I don't
Right.
believe you.
Yeah.
I'm not taking out. What do you want for it? What are you trying to get? Right? That's where we're going to be. And this is why I think this is the downfall of our civilization is that. And it's sad, but it is. So, me saying be sovereign, create your own little world does sound like I'm separating myself from civilization.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes to stay alive and be happy and sovereign, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create my own little civilization, right? In my own little world, because I don't want to be a part of this big fucked up civilization, right? Where men don't know if they're women and women don't know if they're men. They think men can have fucking babies and let's mutilate children because kids having a little crisis about his identity, because he thinks he's a fucking, I don't know, he thinks he's a little girl when he's still fucking, he's still, it's just bizarre. And
Yeah.
it's all by design, on so many different levels. It's not, it's not happenstance. And how do you fix something like that? How do you undo it? I don't think you can.
Yeah.
We're not going to back off on AI because now it's a race to the bottom, right? Who's going to get there first? The Chinese, the Russians, or the Americans with AI? Because
Yeah.
they're not going to play by any rules. They're going to figure out how to make this work, for themselves, how to exploit the rest of the world, and maybe destroy us with AI. So we're not going to do it either. Basically, Trump said, open the floodgates. He goes, get on it, and let's get ahead of them because he knows no rule is going to keep them from doing it. We had rules for Iran, going no nuclear weapons. They keep doing this shit. Now it
Yeah.
took Trump to come in and go, okay, we're going to flatten you guys, right? The rules don't apply anymore. That's the problem. The rules, everybody wants these rules that don't work because they think everybody's going to play by a rule.
Right.
Nobody plays by rules. Not in the real world, even in business. People don't play by rules.
Right.
Relationships, people don't play by rules. If two dudes like the same chick, you think one guy's gonna go, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be the gentleman. I'm gonna let you have him. Hell no, he's not gonna do that. You know what? He's gonna cockblock this guy at every fucking turn. He's gonna sabotage his chances, right?
Yeah.
Because
The
that's
sneaky
human
fuckers.
nature, man. A sneaky fucker, right? Yeah. So it sounds like doom and gloom. It can be if you let it. I think it will be to some degree. It's what are you doing for yourself, And I started out this conversation, I think I did, with most people are very linear in that they have one area that they're good at, right? They got one job. They spent their whole life going through college, preparing to be, for example, a doctor.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to be a doctor. I want to help people. I want to do this. And then all of a sudden, this AI program comes along and goes, you're obsolete now. I got
Yeah.
AI that can do everything you do, can do all the diagnoses better, and write the script and send it to a farm to a drugstore, and they'll deliver it to you with one of these delivery services. So you don't have to leave your house to go get your damn drugs,
Yeah.
and we'll give you we'll let you take your own drugs in your own house, right? So we don't need you. Um, so this is my point: is nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. As far as so, what do you do about it? Well, you have to build redundancy, and you got to be uh, not to say a clairvoyant, but you need to look ahead. You need to look way down the road and start looking what are possibilities, what are options, and which one can I exploit. And you should have multiple contingencies because if one income stream, one lifestyle stream dries up, you got a couple other fallbacks, right?
Yeah.
And most people don't think like that. During COVID, um, myself and Joe Tedeye from Dual Survival and my daughter, oldest daughter, we decided to create a coaching business for the three of us, right? So I've been coaching for a long time. We decided let's integrate. My daughter will build all the website platforms, blah 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 blah. Me and Joe will be the coaches, right? And while everybody was locked down at home, waiting for a $2,000 check from Joe Biden, which will last the average person maybe 2 weeks, maybe, maybe, and they're going to get one of those, right? They're
Yeah.
going, oh shit, I lost my job, and where's my check at? Me and Joe and my daughter sit at home just counting fucking money because we created a business at home. I mean, we know how to do a lot of different things, but like, you know what? Let's pull out our contingency plan. Let's do a coaching program from home. And we did, and we built it. We were making lots of money just sitting in our living room, in our underwear and fucking coaching people and telling them the same thing I just now said is why do you only have one profession? why did you rely on that? Because now you're out of a job and you're flat. So you should have multiple income streams. You should be and it should be unrelated, right?
Yeah.
Because if one goes down, you don't want to all go down. You got another one to fall back on. That means you have to do what? You have to switch tasks a lot, right? So you've got to be able to nurture all those businesses and keep them alive and running. So that does take effort and work. But that's what it takes to stay alive, to stay sovereign in the world, to remain free, is you got to
Yeah.
put the work in. Most people don't want to do it. It's too much work, too hard, right? They don't have the discipline for it. So
So, and then, one of the main reasons I wanted to get you back on was, man, we talked probably, it's been probably a year since, we talked about the stem cell stuff, and
yeah, yeah.
on LinkedIn and all your social media, I've seen you on podcasts and stuff, and every time I'm like, dude, Dale looks like he has gotten younger since we last talked, man. Like you're killing it. You're hitting the heavy bag, you're hitting the weights like better than most 20-year-olds are right now. Like
That's right.
I just I'm curious, man, a year later down the road, how are you feeling with all that?
Dude, I do feel like I've gotten 20 years back in my life. Literally,
Wow.
I don't take any medicine. Haven't in a long time. Really haven't taken any medicine. Years ago, I had a doctor convince me I need to take blood pressure medicine, right? Lisinopril. And because my blood pressure was elevated a little bit, like 140 over 90, right? That's high. You need to take. So I started doing that, right? Talked me into it. And I started realizing that's bullshit, right? I don't need to worry about that until my freaking blood pressure hits like 200 over 120. Then I might
Right.
need to consider it. But then I also looked at what causes high blood pressure, and it's not what people think it is. It's been lied, right? So once I did the work and figured out what was really going on, I threw all those blood pressure pills away. I don't need
Right.
blood pressure medicine. I don't have heart issues. I don't have any issues, right? So but when I started with the stem cells, here's what I had going on. All right, so I was in a helicopter crash back in 1990 on Mother's Day, Blackhawk crash. Broke my back, L2, L3 compression fracture. I was in a body cast for almost 5 months. All right, I was pretty banged up and recovered pretty fast over the years. And then during COVID is when I started having back problems. And the reason I had back problems is because I was doing some security for a company out in San Francisco, which required me to wear body armor. Well, it didn't require it, but for my own safety, I wore it because what I was
Yeah.
dealing with was dangerous, right? So I wore the armor with the plates, but I had to stand on my feet for 12 hours a day, not allowed to sit down, walking around hard floors. And you do that for 3 weeks straight with no break in it, and you do that for 6 months, yeah, there's going to be drama, right? And so I did that, and it started bothering my back. And then it got to the point where I couldn't even bend over anymore. I'd have to squat like a sumo wrestler just to brush my teeth. I remember one time I couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. It was just a mess, right? And and I kept going to a chiropractor, get an adjustment. It helped for a minute, and then 30 years later, I'm back where I started. I have torn meniscus ACLs in my right and left knees that I never had repaired. Got those while I was in the military. Um, I had stage 3B kidney disease, so I've had that for over 13 years. Nobody knows why that happened. But it's very possible it's because of a stroke. I did have a stroke. Nobody knows why that happened because it wasn't an aneurysm, it wasn't a blockage, it was a constriction of my left parietal lobe. Just a constriction and put me on Queer Street. Like I was like double vision, slurred speech. It messed up the ejection fracture of my heart. And the heart and the kidneys are actually work together to control blood pressure, right? And water and
Yeah.
salt, things like that. So it had a domino effect on everything, right? So I got three systems that are impaired now. Something happened with my brain, my heart, and my kidneys. And heart fully recovered. Not sure about my brain. That's all subjective, I guess. But my kidneys were in fact, my creatinine levels were steadily at 1.6 the entire time, right? Which is elevated. Now, it wasn't like critical, but it was definitely elevated. And it actually put me in that category stage 3B for 13 years. So I had a guy call me out of the blue and he's like, I've followed you on podcast, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I'm involved in stem cell therapy. He heard my stories. He goes, um, he goes, you said you wanted to help people, and so do I. So I have a proposal for you and see if you're interested. And the proposal was basically he and I would team up and provide stem cells and exosomes to people out there at an affordable cost, right? Because if you look at stem cells today, go to Panama, Mexico, right? I've done the work, I've done the calls, researched it. You know, you're looking at 25 to 30,000 plus
Yep.
for stem cells. Okay. And for example, Panama will give you 110 million expanded stem cells, right? Now, wow, that's a lot of stem cells, right? But you'll pay at least $26,000 for those. Does include travel expenses and everything else that goes along with it. So you're looking at 30 grand for 110
Right.
million expanded stem cells. Well, what is expanded million? Clone stem cells. That's what that means. Those are not FDA approved, right? So if they harvest, let's just say 10 million stem cells and half of them are goofy, right? And then they inject them in your ass, how do you think that might work out? You want to take that
Right.
chance? And how do you know you're getting 110 million? There's no FDA oversight, none of that stuff, right? So they could give you 10 million. You go, yeah, we'll give you 110. And you might feel some difference.
Right.
But that's not what you paid for. So, and that's the same thing with, you know, these other companies, you know, all around the world, Mexico, you name it. Um, so his agenda was, let's create a company where we can provide stem cells, mesenchymal stem cells, the real deal from umbilical cord. We can do it here in the United States far cheaper than anywhere else. Real stuff, FDA approved, and we do it through telemedicine and home delivery, and basically home administration. That's pretty good. But when I said, listen, man, most people can't afford it. I said, I said, just doesn't make any sense, right? Spending 25, $30,000 for stem cells when the average Joe can't. Yeah, the elite guys can afford it. You know, Mel Gibson got on Joe Rogan, talked how great it was in Panama, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Oh, he got money to burn all day long. You know, Shrek McVie, that idiot. I'm sorry, he went to Mexico and bragged about how, you know, it's like, dude, you should have done your work. It could have saved you a lot of money. And you could have done it here in the United States with Americans, you know? So, um, but so I said, he goes, well, he goes, this is what it costs us to make it, right? So we have actually our own laboratory in Miami, and that's where we get it from. It's FDA approved, FDA inspected across the board. They make sure that what we say we're going to do, we're actually doing it. We're providing stem cells, et cetera. He goes, here's what it costs to produce this stuff, right? To harvest it, you know, and then storage. There's a bunch of other associated costs with it. And he goes, so we could build on top of that the margins, right? So I said, good. I don't want to get rich off of one guy. You know, I said, let's make it so most people can afford it, and everybody still can afford it. And I gave him a number. I said $7,000 for 100 million stem cells, 3 trillion exosomes, 100 $7,000. Think about that. What I just said, 100 million stem cells, real ones, not not cloned, at 3 trillion with a T exosomes for $7,000. You don't have to go anywhere. You do a Zoom call with the doctor. He does your records, prescription. We send everything by dry ice from Miami straight to your home. We coordinate to have someone administer it, whether it's a doctor, a nurse, an EMT, anyone that can do either a local injection or an IV, which we are FDA approved to do that. We have what's called the IND for that. And we can do it. So 7 grand, don't even have to travel. You talk to a guy on the internet, and then it gets delivered to your home, gets injected. Within a couple of minutes, you're done. And it's a game changer. It's a life-changing event. So what happened to me was we agreed on that price, which, by the way, the price has changed a little bit, and I'll explain why, because there's a thing called inflation and shit like that. But so we were speaking in June. By July, I came to Florida, and he literally flew to Florida. He ordered the biologics, had it delivered to his hotel, and I met him at the hotel, got to know who he was. Very interesting guy, very good guy. And and he goes, well, just he goes, I got 2 vials here, one for me and one for you. I wouldn't expect you to take a vial of something, you know, because you don't know me from Adam, right? And I was like, yeah, you're right, because I do, I do have a threat letter from the FBI saying Al Qaeda wants to, maybe a priority target, so maybe you're an Al Qaeda dude, right?
Right. Never know.
And he goes, I tell you what, he said, you pick one of the vials. And I go, I'll take that one. He goes, okay, good. I'll take this one. I go, no, no, I changed my mind. Give me that one, right? And so,
Yeah.
and I inject you first, right? So I did. So I gave him the injection first, and then he gave it to me. And here's what happened. I didn't tell him what was going on with me physically, right? I just wanted to see, you know. So I left that day at it was a Tuesday. I left at 1600. I got the injection. I went home, and one of the things you'll notice right away, you're going to get really tired after you get a stem cell injection. You tend to get sleepy and tired, like, oh, you feel good, you want to go sleep. I did. I went to sleep. I woke up next morning, 0600. I jumped out of the bed, and I'm like, holy shit, I got these are not my knees anymore.
Wow.
I got two new legs under me. I'm throwing roundhouse kicks, right? Run up and down the steps. And and then so that was the beginning, right? So not everybody gets results that fast. I've got other people that have gotten results pretty fast, and some maybe a week later. General Remo Butler is a good friend of mine. I just administered uh, an injection about 3 weeks ago when I was in Florida. I went to see him, went to his home and did it. And if I can't read his testimony right now, but he's like, man, he goes, for the first time, I can walk up and down the stairs with a coffee cup in my hand, not holding the guardrails. He goes, I can drive my car without glasses on, right? It just completely started changing his life just that
Wow.
fast. And these are typical examples of what happens. And so after I got my injection, I went, a couple of things happened. So one, I went to North Carolina about a week later. I was at my mom's house, and I looked in the mirror one morning and go, hmm, my face looks a little different, like a little smoother, whatever, right? And not so beaten up. And not that I'm just imagining things. That night I talked to my wife on WhatsApp on video call in Indonesia. And before we hung up, she goes, hey, by the way, she goes, your face looks different. Like looks like and I go, it does. So she confirmed what I just right. I didn't prompt her. She just said a lot. I go, wow, she knows it too. Then I came back. I went to Scottsdale, Arizona. By day 10, I went and had blood work done. We pulled up my results. My creatinine levels had dropped down to 1.43 from 1.6. All right, in 10 days. Like holy shit. That day I took another, I think 2 million exosomes, not stem cells, just the exosomes. I took them in the knee and in the by IV. Did another blood test. 2 days later, I got the test results back. My creatinine levels had dropped down to 1.34. I was back in normal ranges. Reversed my kidney disease. It is just, and it's steady. It's steadily leveling off, right? What else happened? My back pain was gone. It took back pain a little longer, maybe about 6 weeks, for it to completely resolve itself. And now I'm squatting, I'm bending over, I'm no problems with any part of my body. So there's a lot of benefits. One of them is kidney function. It's really good for kidney function, but it's really good for everything in your body. So when people ask, what are stem cells and exosomes? What do they actually do? Stem cells, we produce our own stem cells, and don't fall for all the bullshit, like, oh, you can make your own stem cells through, you take this vitamin and it'll make you produce your own stem cells. Not at the levels you need. Yeah, we always produce a little bit of stem cells, but you're not producing 100 million stem cells by eating a couple of vitamins. Not going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
So um, what across the board, I've seen with a lot of our patients, I've seen amazing results. All of them have come back, go, wow, my whole life is different. I feel better. I'm getting off the drugs. I'm getting back in the gym. I'm doing this. Their whole level of self-esteem has gone up. They're dispensing with all the medicines they thought they were going to be on for the rest of their life. Their whole body feels better, and that's just there's nothing else that I've come across. Not even HGH or TRT therapy that works at that level. Although they are effective, don't get me wrong. I do TRT therapy. I do micro doses throughout the week. But I used to do HGH, and I will go back to HGH eventually. I've had some amazing results with HGH because HGH now not only slows the aging process, but science is starting to point out, going, hey, you know what? It's actually reversing aging process as well. Problem is, most people can't afford HGH. It's very expensive. Not only
Right.
that, our illustrious past government banned the use of HGH for anything outside of stunted growth, right? For kids, right? So why did they do that? Well, it all started with Michael Jackson. So when Michael Jackson died because he was taking some drug that was off-label use deal with whatever he's got going on and killed him. Suddenly, the government goes, okay, no more off-label use of drugs, and so HGH was banned from being used as a performative type and drug enhancement, right? If you're not stunning a little kid, you can't take it type scenario, right? So they banned all that
Right.
shit. Thank God for Trump again because he came out with the IND during his first term. Said, hey, if you're on if you're on short and final, you should be able to try any drug you want, even if it's not FDA approved yet, right? Because you should have a right to try it. It's your life, right? So that's what allows us to provide stem cells. That's the loophole for us. And but you have to prove that you have a reason to have this program, which we've got all that documented, all that's covered. So what I'm trying to tell you guys, anybody out there that's listening, um, by the way, the cost went up to $8,500. That was a board decision because they had to look at production, harvesting, all the stuff that goes along with it, right? Just the cost of
Right.
everything has gone up. So, but $8,500 still very reasonable, very reasonable. And I doubt there's any other company in America that can do what we do at the price that we do. I don't think there is because we're exceptional in that respect. So, um, $8,500 will turn your life around. How many times do you have to do it? You can do it once if you want, or if you have the budget, you can do it as many times you want. Because here's what happens with the stem cells I mentioned a minute ago. Stem cells are alive. They're on frozen or dry ice, right? You have to thaw them out. After you thaw them out, you have 15 minutes to inject them, right? Because they're alive. What happens is they're called mother cells. They start to propagate and create daughter cells. And it just keeps propagating, propagating, propagating. And they'll continue to propagate for the next 8, 9 months. Okay. Just think of them as like carpenters, masons, bricklayers, right? Construction workers. Think of them, that's what stem cells are. And then exosomes are nanoparticles. All right, now that one injection I was talking about, there's 3 trillion exosomes in this injection. These nanoparticles can cross the blood-brain barrier. That's important, right? If you're having cognitive issues, this could help you with it quite a bit.
Right.
Um, and so I think of exosomes as paint buckets, hammers, nails, you know, construction materials. And so what happens is stem cells go through the body and they're looking to repair things that are broken, replace things that are just not serving its purpose. You got senescent cells in there all over the place in your body, just hanging out, wasting energy, okay, doing nothing, taking space. Stem cells will get that shit out and replace it with new stuff, right? So
Right.
basically, you're rebuilding from the inside out. Now, after 9 months, the stem cells that were in your body kind of peter out. Does that mean you go back to where you started? And the answer is no. That's your new set point. That's your new set point, right? So whatever gains you have made in the last 9 months, let's just say you got 5 years of your life back or 10 years of your life back, whatever you got back. It's not like you lose that again, go back to default. That's where you start off again. So this is why I said if you can keep doing this, it's affordable. That's a big that's a big plus, man, for you. And not only that, you can actually split a vial. So again, what I mean by that is you buy a vial, it's 1 milliliter. You buy the vial, you can actually split a vial. For example, you and your wife. You give your wife 50 million stem cells, you get 50 million stem cells, and you split 1.5 trillion exosomes. Dude, that's amazing,
Yeah.
right? We have other programs where you can just buy stem cells or you can just buy exosomes at a reduced amount, right? So we have different costs, but the premium is $8,500 for 100 million stem cells, 3 trillion exosomes, all pure mesenchymal stem cells. And like I just mentioned the process, telemedicine, delivered to home, et cetera, et cetera. It's been a game changer for me. I have no problems with my knees. I'm running again. I'm lifting heavy weights. I don't do drugs. I feel great all the time. Skin feels better. Some of you guys might appreciate this. Yeah, sometimes your stuff will grow too. I thought that was bullshit, but my wife fears me now. No, she used to laugh at me. Now she's like, "Oh, well, stay away from that." No, I'm just joking.
And then,
But no,
so
it's,
you
it's good
you take
stuff.
that a step further though, and you have your psychosoma engineering program that you do on top of that, and it makes sense,
Yeah,
like why not? You got your body fixed. Let's keep it going. Like you said, you got a new set point. Let's uh
yeah,
let's keep that going, and
yeah. So my psychosoma mind body engineering program, it's proprietary. It's something I created 8 years ago. I've been coaching for 8 years. It's a part-time hustle. I don't charge a lot for it. I'll just be upfront about it. It's $3,000. And I do work with people on payments, right? So if you can't afford 3,000 bucks, that's fine. We'll work it out where you can do installments. A lot of guys do. Some guys pay it off. They have it. No big deal. It's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. Because what you're going to get from me is 20 hours of one-on-one formal instruction like this. And we're going to be talking about various areas of life, if you will, that you need to one change, right? So we're going to challenge paradigms, and then I'm going to go into the science of success, right? So we're going to be chatting for at least 9 weeks, all right? So 2 hours a week through a Zoom call, and then there'll be stuff I'll share with you on an app, for example, WhatsApp or something like that. But what I go through is I go through biology a little bit. There's a reason for it, right? Most people don't, again, they don't understand that, for example, your digestive system produces well over 70% of your serotonin and your dopamine. It's your digestive system, not your brain that produces it, it's your digestive system. Why is that even important? Well, the dopamine and serotonins are your feel-good hormones, right? If you're eating garbage, right, you got leaky gut syndrome, you've got Crohn's disease, you got all the AB, you got all this weird stuff going on because of the food you're eating.
Yeah.
Because these are not diseases, by the way. They call them diseases. They're disorders. They're metabolic disorders. They're created by us and the food that we eat and what we consume, right? We're not designed to be this. We should never be this unhealthy. And so what happens if your digestive system's not functioning optimally, then you're not producing the hormones you need to be thinking optimally. And there's a cause and effect. And I get very deep into this, right? All the lies that have been sold to us. It's amazing that people still will defend the lies, right? This goes back to what I was talking about earlier, right? Information escalation bias. They bought into a lie, which actually started in the late 50s and 60s by it was called the lipid hypothesis, right? So basically what happened was they lied about the effects of fat on your body and sugar on your body, carbohydrates. So this is why the food pyramid came up with, lots of carbohydrates, limit your red meat, no carbohydrate. It's completely upside down. But we've been led to believe this is fact for the last 50, 60 years, right? Look, everywhere you go, low sodium, right? Low sugar. We're going to substitute sugar with saccharin, chemicals, right? Other bullshit, right? Limit your red meat intake. That's all bullshit. It's all a lie. And that's actually those are things that are making people sick. So I go into that so you make better digestive or nutrition choices. Why? Because I want your brain to function better. And of course, your physical body to function better too. I'm not here to teach you how to lift weights and run faster and be superhuman. What I'm teaching you how to do is you've got you have potentially a Lamborghini body, right? But you're running a freaking Volkswagen engine in it that's, the timing's off, the clutch needs to be adjusted, and you just keep corrupting even more, right? You're not changing the oil, you're putting the wrong oil in it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm trying to do is show people, let's get that Lamborghini engine running again. For that Lamborghini body, it's a wreck. We're going to take all the dents out of it, repaint it, and make it back into a supercar. Same thing with the human condition. So I talk a lot about that. It's amazing the shit that we've been told is just a bald-faced lie. Salt is bad. No, salt is actually good. Imagine going down to a heart attack right now and an EMT shows up. What's the first thing they're going to pump in your ass? Saline solution, a whole bag of it, super concentrated. Huh? Right? Why are people's is their blood pressure high? Two reasons. One, low sodium. Two, too much sugar. Three, homocysteine levels are elevated. All right. Those are actually the culprits. It's not cholesterol. Guess what your brain's made out of? Cholesterol. Right.
Right.
And your hormones, what are they made out of? Cholesterol. If you're not putting that back in your body and replacing what you have, there's no wonder you're goofy and you can't perform in bed and you're all fucked up. Right. So I cover that. Then I go into stress. That's one of my favorite modules because I do a really deep dive on what is stress, how to manage it, how to exploit it to your advantage, I guess, against other people as well. Um, because look, nothing happens in life if you can't manage your stress, right? If you're going through life every day worried, you're having negative thoughts. What if this doesn't happen? What if that happens? Well, you're going nowhere, man. You will not improve ever.
Right.
Period. Be stuck in the same place or you will devolve. And I'll show you how to change how you think, all right, from what to think to how to think. And when you do that, suddenly, very quickly, by the way, your whole life will evolve to another level. You'll be like, holy shit, things are happening. I didn't even know what could happen. And they're just happening. It's because I have to reprogram it. So success is based on physics. Success is based on physics, has nothing to do with willpower or philosophy. It's all about physics. Emil Kuh is a great example of it. Kuh's law states that when imagination and willpower are in conflict, right? So, for example, you're a chain smoker, and you're addicted to cigarette, you're trying to stop, all right, and you stop for a couple of days, you're freaking, you're having the withdrawals and stuff, and all of a sudden I just take one little sip, smoke, and then you do it again. You can't get off it, right? No amount of willpower is going to work. Why? Because what you're trying to do is change a program. All right. You're trying to force a program change, and it doesn't work that way. Imagination, when willpower and imagination are always in conflict, imagination wins.
Mm.
Imagine not smoking. Imagine a life without smoke, not have to worry about going to get a pack of cigarettes and I got to step outside and smoke a cigarette. Imagine a life like that. Imagine a life that you want. That imagination will start to become, and it go into a superposition. And eventually you're changing the program because it's a subconscious program. And suddenly it takes over. And so it had nothing to do with willpower. If you think I got successful because of willpower, I did not get successful because of willpower. I don't live in 3 countries, run a bunch of companies and businesses, live the life I live because of willpower. That's a
Right.
lot of damn work, right? That's not what I did. What I did was imagine the life that I want as if it's already happening, right? It's very important what I just said. Not the life I want, because the life I want is already happening, even if though it hasn't happened, right? So you can say, well, I don't make no sense. That's right. Because consciously, Comstock, you're not living in this, this life. Why are you lying to yourself? Because I don't care what I consciously think, because the consciousness is nothing more than the filter. It's the analytical side of the brain. But that information that goes through your consciousness, if you accept it, gets run through the subconsciousness, which by the way, we don't know what that is. Okay. The brain and mind are two different things, but it becomes part of the subconscious program. One of the things it does, it runs through the pineal gland, what I call the gateway to subconscious. So what you're doing is downloading software into the super quantum computer in the back, and that becomes a program you start running. But you have to run it in the here and now. The two most powerful words in American and English language is I am. I am rich. I am this. I am happy. I am healthy. I live this lifestyle, right? So this is where I go into. This is how my life was created. Um, we don't have enough hours in one day. Like I said, it takes 20 hours, and I still can't explain it all. But that's how I created my life. It had nothing to do with working hard and willpower. To be honest with you, I'm a lazy son of a bitch. I really am. My dad knew that before I joined the army. He goes, "You won't do good in the army, son." I go, "Why, Dad?" "Because you're lazy." I was kind of hurt by that. I was like, "Damn, Dad." And so, and so, yeah, but he was right. He was right.
Yeah.
I was one of those lazy teenagers. And then I remember when I was in the army, I remember one day my troop sergeant, he told me, take the team and remove a bunch of stuff off these trucks, these tactical trucks, and put them up in the loft, and stack it all away nice and pretty and organize it. And I remember looking at that, holy shit, that's gonna be a lot of work. And how do we get it all up there? Got to lug it all up there, some heavy ammo boxes and weapons boxes, and I thought about it. I go, you know what? We have a hoist up there. Let's attach a pallet to it, lower the pallet, load it on this hoist, lift it up, and then park it. And that's what I told everybody to do. And I remember my troop sergeant looks at me. He goes, you know what? He goes, if you want something done fast, you go pick a lazy man to do it. I go, I'll take credit for that. I'll own that one, right? So that's the reality, right? I don't like working. I'm not a workaholic, but I do want to be successful. And I've learned that being successful is imagination. If you can imagine it and sense it in the here and now, you can create it. And there's a process to it. So I go into the other area I go into is your conscious thoughts, right? So challenging paradigms. What do you believe and why do you believe it? And that's why I said earlier when I talked about marijuana, I challenged that paradigm and I changed my mind because I actually took the time to think about it and analyze it. Go, fuck, you know what? I was living a lie all these years. And here's the problem. You're indoctrinated from very early on in life. So, from the first 7 years of your life, you're in theta brainwaves. You're in between 4 and 7.8 hertz. It's literally hypnosis, right? This is why kids learn languages, computer skills. They're very technically savvy at a very young age. And I was like, I can't learn all this stuff at that age, but we all are geniuses at that age, right? And then after age of 7, around 8 onward to like 12 or upward, we go into a different brain state. Okay, more analytical mindset, right? And like right now, you and I are sitting in probably beta brain waves. We're kind of being a little analytical. We're compartmentalizing certain information. We're cataloging things, but we're not in a super analytical mode. So there's different brain states, right? And but as you grow up, you're exposed to the news. You're exposed to things your parents told you that they thought was true, right? And you're exposed to all these paradigms. You accept them, good and bad, because you don't know the difference, right? You just don't, you've never challenged it. Because why would I challenge my mom and dad if my mom and dad said, told me something was bullshit? Well, why they wouldn't lie to me. So it must be
Right.
true. All right. And so so your operating system, that includes that information. It becomes part of the program. So you go through life making all these decisions. And you wonder, why the fuck am I not successful? Because you're running off a bad program, bad information, right? By the way, by the time you're 35, 40 years old, half the information in your head is either wrong or skewed.
Right.
And you'll wonder, why the fuck am I not successful? I worked so damn hard. It's not happening. You get really frustrated, and then it just gets worse as soon as you get frustrated because you can't manage the stress, right? So, anyways, moving forward, then the last part, this is where all the magic happens, is I talk about literally I go into the subconsciousness and what is it? Where is it? How does it work? And I teach you things like self-hypnosis, autogenic conditioning, neuro-linguistic programming. I teach you how to reprogram your mind for performance. I literally last week I just graduated a guy and we were talking about this and I said, and he's an army guy. I said, how many push-ups can you do in 60 seconds? Good push-ups. What's your max in 60 seconds? He goes, maybe 50, on a lucky day, maybe 55. He goes, that's it. I'm pushed to 55 max. That's okay. Here's what I want you to do. Tonight, I want you to do this, 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 and this, right? Very simple. Very simple. Before you go to bed, do this, that, 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 and think of this and do this. And then tomorrow morning, when you get up, I want you to do the push-ups, right? I'm talking through how, because he's got to imagine something, right? So imagine, right? There's our word. I said, I need you to imagine something when you're doing this. Imagine this, do the push-ups for 1 minute, and then let me know what you did. That morning he came back and all he said was 65 push-ups, exclamation mark.
Wow.
So just overnight, he improved his performance by at least 10 push-ups in one night. And he didn't practice because you don't have to.
Right.
That's one part of it. Then, so I kind of lumped that into the space of personal performance. And then the next one is future performance, right? Or what I call future pacing, or professional performance, right? So how do you want to create something future tense? I want to have a business. I want to be like Comstock and live in Bali. I want to build a bar next to his and compete against him, right? Whatever the fuck it is you want to do, right?
Right.
All right, it starts with imagination, okay? But there's a process of self-hypnosis that starts to create that reality, okay? And it has everything to do with frequency, energy, vibration, because that's what all the world is energy, frequency, vibration. Nothing is actually solid on any level. So what we have to do is retune or recalibrate our mind and our nervous system and create the energy, which will actually create conditions for us to move into that space. So my point is, it's not what you think as much as how to think. And that's the part where I get into the nuances is the how part of it, right? How to think so that you create the life that you want, personally or professionally on another level. And it could be relationships. It could be whatever you want to do. I show people how to do it very successfully. I've had over 400 coaching clients, all part-time in the last 8 years. And I'm so confident I'll change your life. I have a money back guarantee. At the end of 9 weeks, you go, Comstock, you suck. I didn't learn shit. I want my money back. There's your $3,000. Good
Yeah.
luck. I'll do it. I don't care because that's how confident I am. Because I know it works. And so moving forward, we were talking about the future and people are sitting back going, fuck, man, in 4 years, I got 6 years, maybe less than that. What am I going to do? With my life? What if this happens? What if AI replaces me? What if I got, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people out there that are full of angst right now. Everybody's worried about 20 million illegals crossing our border and taking up jobs, which they should be. But people should be just as concerned about AI
Oh yeah.
because AI is everybody's job. AI is going to regulate everything. There's people that try to go, well, it's a good thing too. It could be a good thing, a bad thing. I don't see any good coming out. So, for example, what's always touted about the future is if you don't have a job, we're going to have to get a universal income every month, right? Okay, how much is that universal income going to be? How much can I buy with it? You think you're going to just buy whatever, a private jet? No, you're going to get, you're going to get, you're not going to get what you want to get. I'll put it that way. You're going to get enough to subsist. But here's what's going to happen. They talk about 15-minute cities and all that kind of crap. Maybe that happens, maybe it don't. But imagine this. We've all been replaced by AI. We're getting this universal income. Okay. First question I have is all the elites up there, are they getting the same universal income as I am, or are they going to get more? Right. They get to fly around and I don't.
Right.
Right. That's my first question. Second question I got is, okay, so we're all sitting around on our ass, because we got a universal income, got food in the house, we got entertainment on TV. How many times a week can you go to the fucking beach before you go, I'm bored with that shit? How many times can you, if you're allowed to leave your 15-minute city, eventually what's going to happen is this. Men are what? We are defined by what? Our jobs.
Right.
When you ask a guy, what do you do?
Yeah.
What you got? Right? Because that's part of who we are. Because what do? We provide, we protect, we build. And suddenly we don't have to provide anymore. I don't have to protect shit because, we got RoboCop everywhere, and we got a system of monitoring, probably got CCTV camera in my house watching me slap my wife, and then the last one, I don't have to build anything. AI is doing all the work for me. So now what happens to men? What are you going to do? It's not in our nature. And you know what's going to happen? We're going to find trouble. We're going to make trouble. We're gonna do stupid shit. We're gonna try to take other people's shit, even though it's the same shit I got. I'm gonna have double or triple, right? And oh yeah, we're gonna go back to crime. We're gonna be selling stuff. We're gonna be selling favors. We're gonna be, dude. It's not gonna work out. There is no such thing as utopia. It will be completely dystopia. It sounds really cool up front. Again, for the limited thinkers, oh, that's a great idea. I don't have to do anything but fuck off. Yeah, fuck off. Get fat. Die of cholesterol. Whatever the fuck you think you're gonna die of, right? You're still gonna be fucking
Yeah.
sandwich your whole fucking life, and you're gonna be miserable. You're gonna live that life unfulfilled that I talked about in the beginning. It's gonna be even worse.
Well, it's going to be like I mean, if going back again, the AI stuff. If there's videos that are created or people are easily manipulated by the or the masses are easily manipulated by this AI stuff, like you're essentially going to be living in a hallucination. You don't know what's real, what's not. And like you said, man, we've history repeats itself, and we'll be our own detriment at some point.
Yeah, well, you made a good point just now about hallucination, right? Are we really real?
Right.
And I will tell you, no, we are not. Are we living in a simulation? I will say, yes, we are. Chase Hughes is a good example. Listen to that guy. He's been there, done that as well. And it's not me because of him. I'm saying this. I've already known this for a very long time. Are we really real? And my belief is absolutely not. Everything really is a simulation. Why? Because it's physics again, energy, frequency, vibration. Do you think that chair you're sitting on is actually solid? If you go down at the microscopic level, you go down as far as you can, you're going to see atoms. What's between every atom? Space. Every atom's moving. Every atom's got an electron. That's where it's getting its energy from. It's got a proton, nucleus. But every atom has space. Nothing's actually touching. Nothing. So your ass sitting on that seat, you're not touching. It feels like you're sitting on it because the energy, the electromagnetic forces is putting like magnets, right? It's a pushing back on you. That's what you feel is the pressure of the energy. All right. Yeah. But we're not really solid. So if we're really not solid and everything's constant, all molecules are vibrating, all atoms are vibrating, can we manipulate atoms and molecules to behave a certain way and create a certain reality? And the answer is absolutely yes. There's great examples of it. For example, the double slit theory has been repeated many, many times. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but Google it later on. Look it up. Double slit theory. Basically, what that means is, so nothing becomes reality until you look at it. Then what it does, it assembles itself to create the reality that you were expecting. So what I mean by the double slit theory, what they did was imagine a large wall. There's another wall behind it's flat. Then you have another wall with two slits in front of it. And then on this side, what they do is they shoot photons through the slit, right? And what they've noticed was as these photons go through the slit, it doesn't just go through the slits, it goes through the entire wall as a wave. And so it forms a bunch of waves, right? And they keep propagating. And then what would happen was when an observer would look around the wall, all these atoms or photons would basically reorganize into straight lines. So you would expect to see two straight lights, right? You'll see that when you're looking at it, but when you're not looking at it, it goes back into like a shotgun pattern. And the way they broke the code on it was they put a camera up to film this thing, record it. So the human wasn't actually looking at it. They let the camera record it, right? And then they looked at the footage later on and go, shit, they're just waves until they're actually being observed by us. Then it organizes, right? It's been repeated so many times. Even Chase Hughes has got some stuff on there about using the what do you call it? The lever, right? The like you get at Home Depot to level the walls, right? The laser lever. They use that with DMT, and they were actually able to see code on the wall from looking at it from a certain angle. Actually, code, right? Figures, but nothing that we could say, okay, that's the letter A or number one. But it's all codes, and everybody that would look would see the same exact code. So it wasn't just one guy making shit up and seeing something different. Everybody saw the same code. And then what they did is they moved this laser forward a little bit to another plane, and they saw a new set of code, and they all saw it. It's been now replicated many, many times. There's some caveats to it. You have to what you have to do is engage the pineal gland, right, through DMT. Now, pineal gland does produce DMT, but you got to activate it. And so what they actually did was take oral DMT, right? And when they get that little bit of a buzz or whatever the hell they got going on, that's when they can actually see it because it becomes an altered state of mind. So I don't believe we're actually real. I don't. And physics is moving so fast now, again, because of AI, that even mainstream physics is now in concurrence with this going, yeah, this is something's not real. None of this seems to be real. And again, it's kind of fascinating because are we living in a hallucination? We're already living in a hallucination. That's the
Yeah.
crazy part. Nothing's actually really happening or really real. It's your perception of it and what you choose to do. So what I do, and I made it a point, especially lately, to stop looking at the news. I stopped looking at anything that's negative, right? In fact, you can't even avoid it because if you go on LinkedIn, for example, there's bullshit on there, right? Fucking, it's all about rage and hate and lies. And, you go to, I don't care what platform you go to, it's all rage bait, right? And so I try to avoid all those. Only time I go on there is if I'm going to promote the stem cells or something like that, my coaching. I don't read shit. I just put my thing on there and send, done with it, right? And the reason why I do that is because I don't want to, because if you're thinking negative thoughts, you're always angry. It's a negative frequency. You're going to attract more of the same, the law of attraction, right? So I try to stay positive in my mindset. And what I'm trying to do is separate my little world from the herd. I want to get out here, stay as far out here as I can, stay away from all the bullshit that's manipulating the dumb masses over the edge. I want to be out here in my own little sovereign, my own little world, create my own reality. And that's actually helped a lot because I get more done because I'm not caught up in going, okay, what happened today in the news? How's the war in
Right.
Iran going? Who's pissing them on in New York? What blue-haired bimbo fucking Karen is, complaining because we arrested a rapist from fucking
Yeah.
Tijuana, right? I'm just tired of reading the shit. And I realized, you know, that if I can separate myself from that, life will get a little bit easier and I can focus on what's more important to me, like, creating a better life for myself and not letting other people hold me back into their fucking rage and their craziness, right? That's what they're trying to do. It's like everybody's intentionally trying to keep you in the box, man. And
Yeah.
and you got to learn how to crawl out of it. So, um, but it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when you've been raised a certain way and you've been all your life you've been paying attention to all the chaos because it's part of your survival instinct, right? Is the reticular activated system is always on high alert, right? Because it's like we got to be looking out for dangerous shit so we don't get killed, we get eaten by a dinosaur, saber-tooth tiger, or whatever, fucking run over by
Right.
a bus, right? So we're always on the alert, and that's what the RAS does. It's a program, and the RAS tells the amygdala, the part of the brain that's part of the limbic system, says, "Hey, we got a problem, man. Fucking run or fight or freeze or roll over and faint and submit, whatever you're going to do, right? Do something. And we can't stay in that state. If we do, it's chronic stress. And what does that do? It makes us sick. Why does it make us sick? Because the cortisol tells your immune system, shut it down. We need your energy. We need your nutrients to gross motor skills because we got to survive. And so if you're chronically stressed, you're going to get chronically sick. And the only way to stop that is you got to stop thinking about stress. You got to stop getting stressed out about shit that one you can't control. It doesn't even matter, right? Like I can't control the war in Iran. I can't control the blue-haired, bimbos in fucking New York.
Yep.
I can't. Only way I can't control them, as I said, just go up there, let the air out of them. But I'm not going to do that. I don't have time to let other people control my life because that's actually what's happening. You're letting the whole world control you, rather than you controlling yourself. And the first step is you've got to divorce yourself from all the external stimulus out there and focus on what's important, which should be your dream, your imagination. All right.
Uh,
So that's, so I went down a long road here, but that just kind of gives you an overview of what I do for my coaching program. But I will change your life, hands down, $3,000. You're not paying for my experience. You're paying for my time. I run several companies, personal companies, and then I'm partners with several other people and several other enterprises. So I have a fiduciary responsibility to lots of people, and my time's important. But I am a humanitarian. I like to think I'm altruistic in the sense I want to help people. That's why I don't charge you for, the U.S. government has spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to train me. I spent thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, educating myself and learning skills. And when I look at the money I invested in myself, you know, I can't even put a value on it. My experience is my wealth. Tony Robbins, his experience is, well, he's very linear. He makes a lot of money, but he lays in bed every night going, I wonder what it'd be like to be Dale Comstock because he'll never buy my experience. He don't have enough money to buy it. He
right.
can't, right? But I can always get, I can always get his wealth and I do, because he's very linear. I'm not. I've got that experience. So you should be developing your wealth, which is your education, your familiarization with the world and what it really is and what it's not. And focus on being happy. And the happiness isn't always defined by money. And I'm not gonna lie, money does help. To quote
Right.
John Wayne, it's a lot better to cry in a Mercedes than on the back of a bicycle, right? And so, but money does make things easier, but it doesn't give you happiness, but it sure does make it easier so you can focus on things that do make you happy. So, but you don't have to make a lot of money to be happy. What you have to, what's important, I think, is when you wake up every day, you're unencumbered by other people's opinions about what's going on in the world, and you can get up and do your thing, live your life, be happy, be free, and cherish every second that you have because time's not guaranteed. In fact, time's an artificial construct as well. There's no such thing as time. And I know everybody's going, well, I have a watch. Well, you know what? The guys that fucking want to sell you watches and invented time, but ultimate, really, there's no such thing as time. It's all relative. In fact, they've already proven you can go back in time, and they're doing the experience with that now, right? So you're not running out of time. Um, you're running out of motivation and incentive, right? And you're just kind of plugging along in life, thinking that I'm going to hit certain benchmarks, and then this is going to happen. Like, I'm gonna get over once I'm over 60. Fuck, I got one leg in the grave, and my dick's not going to get hard again. Not once a day or like it used to, but maybe once a month. There's all these expectations because that's what everybody told you to think. But as soon as you
Yeah.
push back, go fuck you. I'm not listening to that shit. That's bullshit. Then then suddenly there's a paradigm shift, right? Suddenly you're reorienting and recalibrating your compass, going, you know what? There's a better fucking way. They lied to me. This map is freaking wrong, And so you become the Magellan of your own fucking life. Go, you know what? I'm going down that road, and that's what I have done with my life. And this is when you asked me about my health and how I feel. Uh, look, stem cells is a game changer. But do you have to have stem cells? It just depends. How bad are you? How bad have you let yourself get beat up? Right? You
Right.
might need some help. Um, but as far as your mind is concerned, there's actually no limitation to it, no statute of limitation on how long it's going to function. And I can't remember if I said this with you just now or a previous call I had, but I'll just kind of reiterate it. So right now it's theorized um, that if you're still alive in the next 4 to 5 years, that you could potentially live to be 150 years old. Why? Because of the advancement of AI, right? And the advancement of medical procedures and health, things like that, right? This is why I'm glad RFK is now in this position and is drawing attention to what's really possible and calling out the lies. Now, there's some more scientists have come out. I can share this with you later on if you want to post it um, on your uh, podcast page here. But some very noteworthy, and highly acclaimed doctors and scientists have come out, and they think they have broken the code on longevity. They believe now it's possible to live forever because they figured out how to reproduce or extend or make more telomeres. So telomeres shorten as your life. You break off, it gets a little bit shorter, and then when you finally get to the bottom, your time's up. You're out of here, right? They figured out how to actually regenerate and make new ones for all parts of your body. Just like salamanders and lizards can reproduce a tail,
Yeah.
they're breaking the code on how we can do it. And they're convinced now, um, they're convinced that you can live possibly forever. Now, that's another possibility. The third possibility is that it is also theorized that in 30 years from now, más o menos, right? More or less. Sorry, I didn't mean appropriate Spanish. Don't be mad. I was married to a Panamanian, so I think I got a little bit of latitude. But anyways, if you're still alive in 20, 30 years, they're predicting that you will be able to upload your mind or download your mind into a hard drive, right? Or a computer. Now think about those possibilities for a second, right? So you could potentially live in perpetuity inside of a computer, right?
Damn.
How cool would
Yeah.
that be, right? Kind of be cool, but if you had control, but if you don't have control, you got to wait for your great grandson to go, I want to talk to my grandpa from, 100, 500 years ago. And then he turns you on and you go, God damn, about time you turn me back on. Shit, what's going on out there, right?
Where the hell you
No,
been?
I know, right? And, but no, actually think about this. If you could take your mind and put it into a hard drive, make sure you make copies of it and put it in a safe in case you lose one. Um, Now with the advancement of robots that are very lifelike, very accurate, like holy shit, they can outperform humans physiologically in many aspects. Now they're creating bioidentical skins and tissues and things like that. We are in the age of androids. We're very close,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you won't be able to tell the difference between a real human and an android. Now imagine you take your hard drive, your body's dead, right? You were the unlucky ones that didn't make it, but we got you in a box. We install that box into the robot. Now you're living inside of a robot, right? Now hear me out. Everybody's gonna go, I wouldn't want to live in a robot. Oh my God, it's like it's not really real. All right, this will blow your mind. When you feel pain or pleasure, right? Where do you feel it? You don't feel it in your body, you feel it in your brain. Only the brain feels pain and pleasure. That's
Right.
it. That's the only thing that feels it. Everything else is a sensory system. Proprioception. When you touch something hot with your finger doesn't go as hot. It sends a signal, an afferent
Right.
signal up to the brain. The brain interprets it really quick. Holy shit, that frequency is super hot, and you're gonna get third-degree burn, withdraw that finger, right? And it's very fast, super fast, faster than the speed of light. All right. So you could potentially live in a robot and not even know you're a robot. You can know you're a robot, but you'll feel everything you would as a human, physically, sensory systems, everything. In fact, what would be really cool, you go, you know what? Sex was pretty good as a human, but I think I can amp this up like 10x, and freaking, make it even more sensitive. And maybe I'll turn down the pain thing so I don't feel anything, right? I think that's the future. And so you will feel, you still have the same feelings as a human, even though you're in a man-made system, right? Because it goes back to the idea that nothing's actually real at the end of the day. Everything, even that robot is not really real down at the molecular level. It has space between all the components and parts. The only reason it looks real is because what? The superposition, the observer effect, right? We see a robot and it looks like it's real and solid. And that's it. Is it really real and solid? Um,
Damn.
so I think there's three possibilities that are coming down the pike where we will be able to. And remember, we're playing, I think it's like a virtual game, right? We're in this virtual reality. And if we want our character to keep playing, we're going to have to keep rebuilding them or refurbishing them, right? And but ultimately, we're really not here. So another question is, when you go to sleep at night, okay, when you go to sleep, what happens to your consciousness?
Right.
Where'd it go?
Go somewhere
Hey,
else.
you wake up in the morning, you're like, all right, I'm awake. And also the consciousness is back. But where was it for the last 8 hours? Right?
Right.
Where was it? What happened to it? Where can anybody define where consciousness is? You cannot. Does anybody know how it actually works? You cannot. Where
Bam.
is it? What and consciousness isn't it within? No, it actually is without. We are part of a we are part of a collective consciousness. And this goes all the way back to 19, don't quote me on a date, 1903, I think. Carl Jung. Carl Jung said that we are all part of a collective consciousness. This guy was ahead of his time, way ahead of his time. He even knew back then that we are all one collective consciousness. You know why? Classic example. If how many times have for example, I'll use my own example. So I'm driving down the road, my wife's in the car, and I'm thinking, in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I could sure go for a bean burrito right now. Kind of hungry. I'm thinking that. And then so my wife goes, hey, let's go to Taco Bell. I'm like, how the fuck did you know I was thinking about that, right? They just know. I don't know how
Yep.
many times I've done that, right? It's called entrainment. It's actually called inner brain coupling, IBC, where basically when you're together with two people, when two people are close together, become part of a group, a team, right? You start getting on the same level of frequencies, like literally, because we actually emit frequency energy. Okay. And this is why I said earlier about when we started about Delta Force operators, right? There's some kind of quirkiness about us, although we may have different personalities, right? And we have different interests outside of work. There's a baseline that's very similar, right? And here's how this baseline reveals itself. I remember with my assault team, I had same 4 or 5 guys were on my team we were on the same team for many years. And we're doing constant CQB, constantly training together, right? Right. And we became like a machine that didn't even have to talk and think anymore. You could put us in any unknown room or building and we would perform like a well-oiled machine, not following the SOPs because you can't follow SOP even in CQB because there's too many variables that will fuck up your SOP. So what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to do what? Think on your feet and react accordingly, right? Which means if you react and do something different from SOP, everybody else has got to react accordingly as well. Because if they go
Right.
along with the SOP, you didn't go along with the SOP, somebody might get hurt, right? So we have to be adaptive. And what I noticed was in the unit that my team, once we went to work, we became one collective consciousness. It's like I didn't have to guess if Joe Bob over here was going to take this shot or not. I knew he would or he would not. I knew if this guy would, he would do. I know what he would do. They know what I would do. We just knew,
Wow. Yeah.
right? And this is why CQB, when we talk about CQB, close quarter battle, ideally, what you want to be able to do is you want to remove all sensory stimulation, right? And how do we do that? For example, we would go into a completely dark room, strobe lights, loud Metallica music, so you can't hear shit, right? So you can't even talk. You can barely see it. There's the strobes and flash and stuff. And then you got all these other variables, right? Chickens flying around the room. You got robots running around between you. It's just total chaos. Okay. And your sensory systems have been muted because you're picking the strobes of light, you're seeing weird shit in the dark and lots of weird noises and just you smelling smoke and all you got left to function with is up here, the computer system, right? And in order for the team collectively to work together in the same program, there's got to be some type of entrainment. And it comes with training and practice. We didn't consciously know that, hey, we're going to train ourselves, guy. We're going to go training to entrain, right? No. Somehow we know intuitively that's how it works. And so, and it takes a certain, again, so there's more variables to this thing, but what I'm trying to point out here is um, nothing's real. Everything's energy, frequency. And as a collective, we are a larger part of collective consciousness. And there's a lot of science that supports this. There's historical records. They go back for millennia on these topics. And we've always known this. The churches have known this, um, and they've manipulated it so that we would forget, right? So I'll give you a good example. Two guys are getting along. Let's just say so me and my team, we're going to do something, and I'm giving instructions. The other guys are not doing exactly what I want them to do. They're doing their own little thingy. And they go, hey, man, you and I are not on the same frequency. Why did I say frequency? Why did I say frequency? Why does anybody say frequency? Because we intuitively know everything's energy, frequency, and vibration. We intuitively know that, right?
Right.
Well, a woman, you bring your friend home one day. She's never met him. Go, hey, this is my friend, Joe Bob. He's a really cool dude. I don't want you to meet my wife. Here's my Joe Bob, and you get to talking. And later on, he leaves, and then your wife goes, I don't know. That guy gives me a bad feeling. I'm like, what the fuck you talking about? Well, fuck your feelings, right? You were thinking logically, this guy's never done anything wrong. Do you? Yeah,
Right.
her feelings like, I don't know, something's off with this guy, right? And you're like, bitch, you're crazy. And then 3 months later, you're like, damn, she was right. The guy's a
Right.
total guy, right? And how does she know that? Because we're programmed differently. It's a program. Here we go back to the program, right? So part of the limbic system, particularly, and the subconscious, women are more emotive, right? They're more emotional centered. They're better at picking up energy, frequency, because they have to. It's part of their survival, right? You and I, as men, we're not that emotive unless we're a beta male, which is a lot of in our country now. But as masculine men, right, we are more rational in our thinking, and it's all evolutionary. When you so I'll paint a picture. I say this jokingly, but it kind of makes the point. So you and me, right? We're back in the caveman days. We're hanging around the cave. There's a bunch of us dudes, and got a bunch of chicks, and the women are like, "Hey, I'm getting hungry. I need some food." And it's like, "All right, fuck, guys, let's hit the spears. Let's go get some food, right?" And we're gonna go hunt some mammoth elephants. So we take off. The women stay back home. They're building a bonfire, collecting sticks and shit, and and cleaning out the cave and stuff till we come back. And we go out and we find a herd of mammoth elephants, and we box them into a canyon. We close off the canyon. Now we got them all boxed in. We're up on the top of the ridge looking down at them, right, evaluating them, and we're trying to make a decision which one do we kill, right? And me as a leader go, you know what? We're going to kill that little baby one right there. And then what we don't need is a beta male or a chick going, why we got to kill the baby? He didn't do nothing wrong, right? So you're like, shut up, bitch, because if I kill the adults, we'll run out of adults to make babies. Eventually, we're going to eliminate our fucking food source, right? And so you know, it's a form of cattle management, so to speak, right? We got to keep a sustainable food source. We're going to kill the little one because they can make more little ones. And besides, the little one, dude, is easy to chop up, easy to carry back, and they're more tasty because they're succulent and sweet, right? And so, and we're not, we're not wasting food, right? So we haul them back to the cave. And women are happy because we brought, they don't know it's a baby elephant because all they see is pieces and parts that we haul back. And not that we really even give a shit, not that they even cared, right? They just want to fill their stomach.
Yeah.
So we're sitting around the bonfire one night, and then one of our scouts comes back and goes, hey, man, Neanderthals next door. They're putting together a war party. They want to come over here and they want to eat our baby mammoth elephant. They want to rape our women. They want to enslave our kids. They want to kill us. Right. And so what we don't need to have happen is the chicks or the beta males going, hey, can we just like send them a memo and invite them over for a barbecue with the baby mammoth elephant and just all get along? Can we do that? And the answer is no, fuck no. And here's why, because we don't think like that. They don't think like that. There's only one answer to this, and that is we're going to go right now. We're going to set up an ambush. We're going to let them think that their women are here alone, invite them over, and then we're going to kill them all, right? We're going to eliminate the threat, right? And we're going to organize a party to do that. It takes logic and rationalization, right? So what I'm sharing with you is this is part of our biology, and you can't deny it. And but everybody wants to deny it, right? So when people say men and women are equal, no, we're not equal. All right. And no, not all men are equal. Not all of us are the same. Not all cultures are the same. Right. Listen, if you want to be, if you want to be truthful, you got to look at things and be able to, point out the hard truth, the hard facts. Stop trying to placate everybody and tell everybody, kumbaya, we're all fucking humans. We might all be humans or humanoid. But even that there's some questions there with it, right? So, and what I'm sharing with you is, I mean, there's records of this going way, 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 way back. The um, Akashi records. There's so much that goes back, right, to this. Even in scriptures and Bible scriptures, right? There are certain books that have been left out of the canon because the stories in the book are counter narrative to what the people in power, the bishops, the priests, and the politicians wanted you to believe. So they modified the canon. They left out certain information and only left in the information that works to help keep you in control or keep them in control of you. Um, but we say things because we intuitively know, you know, that things are a certain way, right? But we've been suppressed over the years to believe certain things, especially in biblical teachings that, like I just, and I'll shut up here in a minute. We're kind of going over time, but you know, I let me put it this way: I believe in a higher power. I'll just leave it at that. I believe in a higher power. Um, I don't believe there's a heaven, and I don't believe there's a hell. I don't believe there's some dude with a beard up there waiting to embrace me or fucking say, "Stop, motherfucker! You're going south because you're a bad guy." That's not happening. It even says it in the Bible, but people misinterpret that, right? Heaven and hell is what? Within us, not without us. It's within us. Huh? Interesting, right? And there's a lot of passages in the Bible, and that will make you question it. And I know this is the kind of shit people will kill over. Um, but there's some dark shit in the Bible, just like there's in every freaking religion. There's some really dark stuff in there, right? That
Yes.
if people had the courage, they would acknowledge it, but they don't want to acknowledge it. What they would rather do is pretend like we just don't understand what that meant. Well, I have a question. Going back to the Bible part, then, if the Bible is without error, right, and you really want me to believe in this person that created this Bible thingy, you would want to make it a little bit more accurate, right? And then the argument is, well, scholars and sages and others 600 years after the death of Christ actually wrote the Bible. And so they put all these verses in there, and it's like, you know what? Can you remember exactly what you and I said 2.5 hours ago when we start? Hell no. How do you think a guy from 600 years later can remember what some dude said 600 years ago, right? And put it in a fucking book. So I can challenge this shit all day long confidently. And the only reason I do it is because all I'm doing is the work to try to affirm or deny that the world that we live in is either real or it's perceived, right? And so I'm inclined to believe now that we don't really live in a real world as we see it, as most people believe it. I believe the world that I live in is the one that I create in my mind. Um, and like when I leave my room right now and I leave, will this room still be here when I'm gone? And I'm going to say no. As soon as I come back, it'll reappear itself, right? So it's that again, it's that superposition, it's the observer effect. And I challenge anybody out there, go on YouTube and look up observer effect. Look up things like the observer effect, also superposition. Look those things up. And it's not gonna be one guy talking about it. There's gonna be people out there, highly intelligent scientists, physicists, and others, metaphysicists, that will explain this. And this is becoming more mainstream than not because things are changing really, really, really fast on a daily basis. So, anyways, what I do is, my coaching is centered on these ideas. I'll show it, I'll prove it. Everything I teach, I prove it. I support it with science and my own experience. They go hand in hand. Um, so with all that said, I know you got 2.5 hours. I can talk a lot too, man. I'll go ahead and unless you got another question, I'll just
Yeah.
shut
No.
my
So
mouth.
what we'll do, man, is we have all your links and stuff now, so we'll attach it
Yeah.
all to the video. But
Oh yeah. By the way, one more thing. My link for my website is down gone. You won't be able to find it. I'm still going through that. Somebody somehow was able to kill my website and acquire my name, DaleComstock.com, and they're literally holding it ransom. You want to pay a lot of money for it, right? It's like, you son of a bitches, man. This is the world we live in, right? So if you really want to get a hold of me, best way to get a hold of me is through Instagram, official American badass, Dale Comstock, and also you could do LinkedIn. I'm on there, and Facebook. Those are the three main ones. So
cool.
don't go to the website; it's not there.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So
Sabotaged.
we'll link all that stuff, man. And we got that a guy last time who reached out, and I sent him your direction, and I hope he went through the program, and I hope he's
Not
doing.
yet, not yet. Yeah, so that's the thing. A lot of guys want to do it, and then they get there, can't really afford it. So, we have their names,
Yeah,
and when they go through, you know, then you'll know for sure because you and I have a little thing, a little deal. But yeah, it's even 8,500, even $7,000 was a lot for a lot of people, especially in today's economy. But
yeah,
if you want to be able to thrive in the future, you got to fix your body. This is the vehicle that's going to carry you through the future. And if you want to be around 150 years, you got to take care of this body. Um, you just have to, right? Yeah, fitness is important, diet's important, mindset's important, but right now we're not in the position where we can replace telomeres. All we can do is replace, your mesenchymal stem cells and those types of things at that level, your
yeah,
biologics, and keep upgrading them to keep you hanging in there a lot longer, right? But and then the last thing I'll say is just remember what your purpose is in life. It's a little bit different for everybody. For me, my purpose right now at my age, it's not about me. It's about what can I do to sustain my family, right? And keep them in a good place future wise so they don't get caught up with the herd and go over the abyss, right? Freaking, I want my family to stay sovereign. So, and I got to stay healthy to do that so that my mind functions so I can create that plan and get them there. So it's again doing what men are supposed to do, right? Provide, protect, and build. And true to my nature, that's what I've been working on. I've been doing that all my life, but now it's even more important, especially because where we're at in this world. It's scary
yeah.
times.
Well,
So,
and especially
anyways,
for us vets too, man. Like we're all beat up. We've been run through the
yeah,
ringer, and
yeah,
get some stem cells, rebuild that stuff, and then carry
yep,
on the mindset that
yep,
you have because the
yeah,
body feels it for sure, man.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we wouldn't even feel so much if it wasn't for the bad diets that we have, right? The food
Inflammation,
the
yeah,
vaccines, man, all that shit adds up. Even environmental toxins, people don't even realize how much stuff is going through their skin alone. And we're just very toxic, man, physically toxic. I tell people that if you ever find yourself in a situation like the Donner Pass, we're like, man, we're out of food. We're gonna have to start eating people. I'll tell you right now, don't eat the fat guy. He's full of toxins.
right,
Find the lean dude that's got lean muscle. He's probably a healthier guy.
right.
And cook him good, cook him well, man. Get it well done.
Keep you satiated longer.
Yeah. All
Well,
right.
it's been a pleasure, man. I really do enjoy it, and I'm loving the progress in you that we're able to watch. Like I said, it seems like you have gotten a year younger, not a year older, since we last talked.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's a testament in itself. So we'll keep sending them your way, man, and hopefully, like I said, we can get some vets and some cops who have been injured some help.
Yeah.
Get the stem cells,
Yeah.
rebuild your body.
I mean, we'll work with them. Um, we're here to help, man. It's yeah, we're making a little bit of money, but it's nothing to write home about. And this when I started, it's like, look, man, I want to be able to help people and not milk them like these
Yeah,
other companies. They're so overpriced. It's mind-boggling how overpriced they are. It's like, wow,
right,
they really are ripping people off. Because I know what it costs for us to harvest stuff in our own laboratory. There's no way that adds up. There's no
right,
way it can add up. At 8,500, there's still a little bit of a margin in it for all our doctors that are involved in this and people that are processing stuff that
right.
we have to pay to do this. There's
It's a
still a
business.
margin in there for them, right?
Yeah,
And I would rather give them a smaller margin and make it, you know, uh, we work in volume. You make your money there, then let's just get rich off of a couple people, right? That's just bullshit.
right.
I so. In that sense, I feel it's ethical what we're trying to do, and I put my name on it. So everything I just told you about it is fact, all true.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and we support that for sure, and that's why we keep doing this. But the progress, I mean, people should go look a year ago when we did this, and how you look now, what you're doing. You're hitting a heavy bag like you're 20 years old, man. Like it's wild,
Yeah,
it's wild to see.
yeah, yeah. It's all good stuff, man. Well, anyways, appreciate you having me on, and anytime you want to chat some more, I got lots of. If I can't baffle you with bullshit, I'll dazzle you with brilliance, man.
All right, yeah. I mean, I'm going to be in Florida in like 11 days, man. So if you're
Oh
out there,
man,
so.
yeah, I just left a week ago.
Oh
Came
shit,
back home. I have a home there too, but I have a
yeah,
home in Panama City Beach. But I was down in Tampa for a while, Miami a few times, and then now I'm back in Bali for a minute, but I'll be back in a couple months for the summer.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna get a place out there, so just let us know, man. We'll come see you and we'll do something.
All right. All right.
All
Awesome.
right.
Good trip.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.